All right, let's see what's going here. You guys should be able to hear me. Let me make sure my mic audio's good. My music looks good. Okay. All right. I'm gonna let you guys pick what we do first today. So let me make sure that we are getting this. Where's that at? Hold on. There we go. Okay. And then let's make sure that that's running. So let me exit out of that and then make sure it's running. So we'll let that run. That'll be running the whole stream. And then other than that, let me put up a little poll here. You guys can decide what we're working on first. Find that poll button here. All right. New poll. What are we doing? In 10 minutes, we can say, what are we working on first? And we can say Linux labs. I don't know. We make Linux labs. We can talk security topics, talk cloud topics, getting the job, or what else? I don't know. I guess virtualization and K8s. How's that? Virtualization and K8s can be one too. And you can put channel points to that as well if you want. So there's our poll up there. You guys can decide what we're working on first. And I will sit here and I want to see if this thing starts running like it should be. I don't think it needs to be focused for it to run. Maybe I don't have it on the first one. Let's see what happens on. Let's see what happens here while we're voting. It's like one person wants to see getting the job. That's a good one. We were talking last night a little bit about the types of questions that I ask in an interview. So there's that. Let me pull this thing out of the way. That is super annoying that the way this is set, I cannot see. Oh well, I'll see it later. Yeah, Fisherman, I saw that. I saw that that was an open position. I've actually seen that's like the number one thing everybody seems to want to talk about online here. That seems to be like the number one thing everybody's doing. Yeah, this is just supposed to advance. So hold on. Maybe I'm being too slow here or too impatient here. Let me see if this thing moves while we're sitting here. So I'm still getting organized here. Still taking a second to get stuff. But yeah, Fisherman, that's a good point. We're gonna walk through some stuff today, and I need to build a new presentation. And it's funny, I don't even think I've started this presentation up yet, or if I have, I don't think I've actually put anything in it yet. So let me see if I actually started this. So give me 1 second real quick. I got to pull up my other email and go look at what me and my old boss were talking about. We were talking about a cloud brown bag. So I'm going to do a talk about the cloud. But what did I tell him I was going to do it on? This is what I said. This is what I said the topic was going to be. Quick wins and moving to the cloud. So, whoops. That is not what I wanted to do. Come on. Quick wins and long-term... Oh, you guys can't see that. Alright, let me move it down a little bit so you guys can see it. Should be right about there. Quick wins and long-term organizational strategies to move to the cloud. I don't have one of those made yet, so apparently I did not put that anywhere. So maybe I just need to make a new lab up. I'm gonna make sure I didn't start one with that. No, I didn't. Okay. It is bugging me a little bit though. Let me get rid of the college one. That's a college one. Let me see if I can't. While we're waiting here, I could have sworn I started that up. Anyways, okay. And this thing is not gonna start apparently. My timer is not running on these topics. Intro to Alibaba Cloud. No. So it'll definitely be AWS focused, Fisherman. And what I'm gonna do is I have a slide deck that we've done, we've talked about here, and it's this, right? But the problem with it, it's under Solutions Architect Pro. The organization migrating to AWS, right? And some of this makes sense, Dude, you guys have no idea how much it bugs me that this was literally just working earlier and now it's not working anymore to run through these quickly. Like, it was all working earlier and then I left it and now it's not working and that's really bugging me. So, hold on, let me see if it'll start running again over there. But anyways, down here, but there's some stuff I want to say in here. A lot of this stuff is too much. Like these two slides will be good. I'll have these in there, but this is even deeper than I want to go on my talk. And you say, well, why is that? Why do you not want to go as deep as like migration paths and like the way that you look at migration? Because that gets into like technical stuff. I want to start out with like quick wins. So some of this stuff, like I'm going to show these real quick and say these are the ways people move into the cloud, but let's look at how we can start moving our stuff quickly. And I'm going to do a real quick blow through of the deployment options. But again, I'm not going to focus on like look at all this is all this technical stuff in here. Look, if I go down, it's like, hey, here's how you do deployment options to do all these things to move up into using CloudFormation, and here's the AWS like this. That's not what I want to do. What I want to do is show them like, hey, most organizations that move into the cloud, the first thing they do is just move their data up. Yeah, like Fisherman. So it's like move data up, get your data up there quickly, and then it's like make sure that you can restore your data from there. That's a quick win, right? Like the cost to that is nothing to put all the data up there, just some time and some planning, and making sure your security's good. And then there's some costs to pulling down data, but I guarantee you a $30 cost to a business for like proving that their backup solution is working, their disaster recovery and business continuity plans align with what they wanted. I guarantee you a $30 charge on pulling that data down is literally nothing to them. I mean, it's next to nothing to most organizations. So, all right, it looks like people are still saying getting the job. So anyway, so a lot of this stuff is too much. But down here, where do I have it? I don't have it in this one. I have it in one of these. So I gotta like kind of Frankenstein these all together and pull down. So I think like one of these, like the migration one might have it, where what are some quick wins, right? If I come down here, there's methods, and that's technical, but that's not what I really want to show them. No, this is not. Yeah, here's security migration. So like quick wins are making sure that you have selected a region, and that's the region where you're going to build things. These are things that need to be thought of up front, and they're real quick wins in the cloud. Find out how your Amazon Guard Duty looks, and make sure you act on those findings, right? And then you start to just build out. These are security focused quick wins, and this is the whole thing. But the quick wins here are limit your security groups down so that they're at least aligned with what Trusted Advisor tells you. So I'm just going to like walk them through, and some of these are going to be ones that make it in there. Amazon S3, block public access. That's actually a default setting, but it doesn't mean that you don't still think about it, right? There's just a bunch of things, right? Make sure that your Amazon S3 communications are all requiring secure transport. That's a super easy little bucket policy to put on. Now, the only way to talk to your S3, yeah, sure, somebody can get a hold of your S3, but they can't talk to it without using HTTPS. That's a win, right? That's a security win. That's data in motion, right? That's encrypted data in motion. That's a thing. So anyway, so some of these are things that I'm going to look at and do, but again, the quick wins are getting your data up there and testing that you can pull it back out. Migrating static content into S3 buckets. That's a quick win. And some of you guys are probably like, man, why haven't you ever built your thing out yet then? A as of CIA. Yeah, I mean, availability is a big part of it as well. Yeah. But getting your static content up there, maybe setting up CloudFront so that anybody in the world can get to your stuff with low latency. That's pretty cheap. That's and storing static content on there is like really cheap and easy. Man, this is legit. All right, I'm gonna leave it here, and we're gonna see if this runs now. So the thing in the top right should just run the entire stream, and if it doesn't, it's legit gonna make me mad because it was working all earlier. It was working with no problems. So I'm not going to be happy if it stops working. All right. What have you guys voted? You guys have a few more seconds to vote on what we're doing. You guys are saying you want to do getting the job, so I'll probably move this over here then. And I'll move this down here then. And maybe I'll pop on stream here for a little bit. Let me HPC, those are my HPC questions. Those are my Linux ones. All right. So we were on this yesterday. So this is kind of where I ended up yesterday. Let me pull this up in front here. I'm curious if that thing keeps running. So I need to watch this for a second, guys, and see if it keeps running. But can you list the number of CPUs? That's one of those questions. By the way, if you need to, assuming this thing keeps running, let me know if. All right, it went to the next one. Okay, is it running though? It does not look like it's running. Oh no, it's running. Okay, good. All right, so you guys can answer those questions. You can ask me questions about those. Those are just going to run in the background while we talk about these other things, okay? So that's kind of how I designed that, to just kind of run the whole time. I'll go ahead and pop up on stream here for a little bit. Looks like you guys said getting the job. That's Cloud Topics and getting the job 1. I don't know how the voting went exactly on that, but hey, Colchis, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by and letting us know that you're doing stuff. By the way, anytime you guys tie, you know I just get to pick whatever I want, so I could take the stream wherever now. But we gave it a good shot. All right, so pull up a chair. Let's keep talking about this. We went over these ones last night. We got to right about here. Yeah, we got to right about here. But real quick, the security triad. What does that mean to you? And do you understand what CIA is? Right? And we were talking a little bit yesterday how I did quite a bit of interviewing as the red team lead and brought people in and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of that kind of stuff going. Hey, Turing Moon, how's it going? And Robotech, hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. You're going to notice that thing's just going to keep running. I hope it keeps running. It looks like it's going to. So there's all kinds of Linux questions that I've been gathering from, just you guys over the time that we've been doing this. We went through some of those, but there's going to be new ones popping up in there. So that's something for you guys to play around with and just think, hey, if I'm at a command line, can I answer these questions? And you can feel free to drop those in the chat if you do get any of that stuff working or if you get stuck on something. However, we are over here talking more about getting the job. What does it take to get into security? What do you need to know and maybe study it? Yeah, Colchis, these are up in the Discord. These exact questions I put up in the Discord a while back. They are under... let me make sure... I know I'm not lying to you guys, but let's see where they are. I think they're down here under... They're not under security resources, although here's a lot of free study stuff for security. I might have it under... I probably put it under presentations. And... yeah, here's my security engineering intern questions right here. Yeah, so it's all right under here under presentations. You could go get... yeah, in fact, I have all of these here. And then I ask them, yeah, so all the way down to there. Okay. Oh, two other things to mention real quick while I'm on here. If you no, not there. If you go to the top left of our server, if you're down in our Discord, Discord's free, doesn't charge you anything. We have two events coming up. One is Ben is going to come and talk data analytics and economics. He's a good buddy of mine, and he is a PhD candidate and a professor at a big college in California, pretty well-known, well-respected college in California. He's going to come out and talk about data analytics, pulling data down. I think he's got a master's in computer science, and he's a very, very sharp guy. He'll talk about maybe even some combat sports stuff, but he's a numbers guy. If he tells you something or he tells you whatever he's doing, he always talks about the methodology and how he got there. So I think that he'll come in and have a good talk on what he's doing in the data and research space. So he's got some stuff that he's been publishing with his college that he wants to show you guys, and then just kind of talk data engineering and that kind of stuff. He's real good at just a lot of that stuff. So he's coming up. And then also we're having our inaugural holiday Christmas party coming up. That's going to be on December 16th. If you look these up in Discord, they will always be in your time. So like it's 3 p.m. my time on that Saturday for both of those. But for you guys, if that's 7 at night or whatever for you, that's what it is. It'll come up in your time zone. That's one of the cool things about Discord. So okay, so that's that. And you guys know where to go get those questions if you want. There's also just a lot of stuff up there that you guys can find. But anyway, so these are questions I used to ask. Do you know what confidentiality, integrity, and availability mean? And for the interns, I really just cared that they knew what they were. If they could go any deeper, that's good. For like when I was asking like the pen testers and like some of the more advanced people that we were hiring for our team, I cared that you understood like the implications of them and kind of some of the different pieces. Like integrity means who can touch the systems, right? But it also means, or who can touch the data and who can change it rather. But it also means if something like entropy or the passage of time or the failure of a system affects the ability to read that as well. So tapes that are sitting in a musty old tape bin that you didn't rotate out and you haven't bothered to get the data off, 3 years later they're no good, and that is still an integrity problem, even though nobody ever touched your data, nobody did anything to it. In fact, the fact that nobody did anything to it is the problem, right? And it's the exact opposite of "so neglect becomes our ally." Does anybody know where that quote's from? You can look it up online if you want, but does anybody know where "so neglect becomes our ally" is from? It's a very famous quote from a famous author, and it became a movie and stuff. But what did you say? Intro to something? What did you say, Fisherman? Oh yeah, and Fisherman, just now I finally got to see that you were the first one. You got 15 G. I just now could see that was your thing. All right. What happened here? Fisherman, did you manage to say something that didn't come up on my stream? That's strange. Like, Fisherman has said something that is not in my stream feed anywhere. That response to you, I don't see you saying that. Intro. Oh, intro to Ollie. Okay. Never mind. I do see it now. All right. Yeah, it was the intro to Ollie. I couldn't follow the thing. So, all right. Just me being old and crotchety and like, oh, what are you doing on my lawn? All right. When would you use SAST and DAST? We talked about this at length, but I'm going to let you guys go look those up. And then we talked about IAST as well and the different types of testing that we do. White to black deals with how much knowledge you have. White means I have all knowledge, probably even usernames and passwords. Black means you just can tell me, the name of my company is AAA. Go do whatever you want to it, right? And there's different levels of this, and there's different types of engagements and different types of companies we would use for each of these. So that's something to think about, right? Then down here we got into OWASP. You need to know what the OWASP top 10 are. It's very beneficial to you if you're going to come in to an organization. Say you want to do application security or you want to do red team security. You should know what the common types of vulnerabilities that people are looking for. Schrodinger's box. I like that. All right, I like that. That's good. All right. So how do we protect data at rest? How does this differ from protecting data in motion, right? So this is an important kind of thing to think about. How do we protect data at rest? We do a thing called typically like an envelope key encryption. But if somebody were to step all the way back, if my students were to step back and say, you have text, plain text, and then you have ciphertext, and to go between plain text and ciphertext, you need to use a cipher of some kind. Typically, we call that either a symmetric or an asymmetric cipher. And then for that to happen, you use keys, and keys are the modification of that data as it passes through one way or the other. So in a symmetric key system, the keys are the same on both sides. And in an asymmetric system, they are not the same on both sides. There's a private one that nobody can ever see and a public one, right? And if they at least tell me that for data at rest, there's a couple things I want to know about that from somebody. Typically that we use envelope encryption, so then we can encrypt the data key and put the data key right next to the regular key. And I've talked about that on other slides, presentations on that. There's a really good AWS talk on that. So if we were to go to, let's see if I can just pull one of these up here. If we were to go to AWS key encryption envelope, it's envelope key. I spelled envelope wrong. Envelope key encryption. They should. I think they have a real good breakdown in one of these. Let's see if this is it. I think it might be a blog post where somebody has a really good breakdown. Yeah, in the AWS KMS concepts right here. They have a nice breakdown of kind of how envelope encryption works. And let's see if they have it right here. Yeah, here you go. Here you go. So this right here kind of comes up with some of the other stuff, but I'm going to link that to you guys for people that are interested in that. So the way this works with KMS, the key management service with AWS, is you have to have the ability to use that key, and then you can use that key to unencrypt the data key that's sitting right next to the data, and then you can use that to unencrypt the data. Now, what happens is they send you, so when you use the key management service, and this is probably described here quite a bit, the KMS service sends you back in that request. If you send that request, and it's real easy to do this and test with a with like the command line toolkit, you send it out, and the response you get is a plain text version of the data key. That's what you're going to use to encrypt the data on your side and go put it up in the cloud, up in S3. And then they give you an encrypted version of that data key that's been encrypted via that KMS key. And you take that and you put that up there and you throw this key away. So this plain text data key gets tossed away out of your system's memory, and it's gone, not usable. Hopefully you get rid of it. And that's how KMS service works, so that you don't have to keep going back to the service over and over again. What happens is once you've checked in with KMS and gotten the permissions, you know you have the permissions to use a key, they give you two versions of it. They give you the plain text data key that you can then go do whatever you want with and encrypt your data, put up in the cloud, and then they give you an encrypted version of that key that you can set right next to it. Then when somebody else comes along to use your data, to get your data out of that S3 bucket, they have to have permissions to go to the KMS key and get the decryption key to go and pull down the plain text version of that key, and then they can use it to decrypt your key for your data. Then they take that data key and decrypt your data out of S3. And that's how envelope encryption works. It's like I'm walking around with an envelope and I'm taking it out of the envelope and giving it to you each time. It seems like an added thing, and it is added overhead. Every bit of cipher you ever do is going to be added overhead, but it's going to help you to keep that system secure, because now everybody has to check in here before they can use a key, right? It makes it super efficient and well usable. All right. So then I say, how does this differ from protecting data in motion? Well, with data in motion, we don't use envelope encryption like that. We actually establish that the far side is who they say they are. We use that. We use a thing, a three-way handshake, or depending on the TLS 1.2 or TLS 1.3, we use a 7 or a 5-way handshake. But then once we're done with setting up that handshake, then we use a symmetric key. We actually negotiate a symmetric key between the two of us, and we use that symmetric key to encrypt the data as we move the data around. Now, something I always want people to tell me if we're talking about this stuff is, I want you to know that the minimum symmetric key in the cloud is AES 256. That's the minimum cloud standard. That's what AWS KMS uses by default. It is a question that you'll see on certifications like CCSP will ask you that not directly, but that's a question adjacent thing that you need to know if you tell me you want to go get those certs. So, and thanks guys for doing the little student messages. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. How do asymmetric keys work then? Asymmetric keys are different keys, but they are what we call cryptographically similar, in that if you put data in one side and encrypt it, only the other side can decrypt that data, and that's true both directions of the algorithm, right? So they are, yeah, it says right here, mathematically linked. I like when people say that, or cryptographically linked. They're similar. One's called private and one's called public. Now, we use that to prove that you are who you say you are, because when I first initiate a handshake with you, I can send you a block of encrypted data encrypted with your public key. Only you will be able to decrypt that, send it back to me unencrypted, and I go, that's right, that's what I sent. I sent the lazy brown or what is it? The lazy fox jumps over. Does anybody know the phrase? Does anybody know the significance of the lazy fox jumps over whatever? Anybody know the significance of that phrase? It's a common phrase that people use for things. The lazy fox. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, the lazy fox jumped over is every alphabet, every letter. Oh, over the lazy dog. That's what it is. Is that it? Yeah. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. That's what it is. It's an English language pangram, a sentence that contains all the letters of the alphabet. So if you guys have never heard that before, this is a good one to test ciphers and stuff against. Like if you're playing code breaking games and that kind of stuff, which I know some people like to do on stream. That is a good one to prove that all of your stuff works, right? Because everything will go. And look, there it is. It's jumping over. That's funny. And then they talk about some computer usage and cultural references and places that it shows up and stuff. But that's one that's kind of popular to use. All right. Yeah. So within TLS, we use asymmetric for the handshake and then symmetric agreed upon keys for the movement of data. And why is that important? So SSH uses asymmetric keys. So SSH does use asymmetric keys to establish the connection, and then everything else for communication tends to be symmetric keying after that. Yeah, that's actually how data communication occurs for most of them, because if you don't use symmetric keys, if you stay asymmetric, you tend to be an asymmetric key process between two, taking plain text, turning it to cipher, moving it over, and moving it back is 10 times more, so it's one order of magnitude greater of processing power than just using symmetric. So we tend to use asymmetric keys to verify the far end is who they say they are, and then there's a process for guaranteeing that we have the same symmetric keys. Now, there's a guy who did a really good talk on this. I'll pull it up. It's in our Discord because we were talking about it a few weeks back, and I think we put it under security topics, but I'm not 100% sure. We might have done it under cloud topics because we were talking about it, or cloud technologies. Let's see if we have it in here because we were talking about it the other day, and I asked somebody to find it, and they did. And it's right here. Yeah, I think it was I posted it, and then Robodom was the one who saved it. I think. Is this it right here? Yeah, this guy walks through all these different pieces that can really kind of dig in for you on how these different encryptions work and stuff. So if you just want to see it happen and you've got an hour, it's not even an hour. It's a really good watch. It's a really, really good watch. So I'm gonna link that to you guys that want it. There you go, boom. And let's get this other stuff out of the way. There's good stuff all up and down, I think, in our different stuff for people that were working on different certs and stuff over the years and stuff. And we've been running that Discord for 4.5 years now almost. So and then I say, can you explain the TLS 1.3 handshake? And do they understand how it's been streamlined from 1.2? Do they understand that it is asymmetric and then negotiates symmetric? And then, like I was saying, why it matters. So anybody that got here late, I'm talking about these security engineering intern questions that I ask when I talk to the security engineers or the security engineering interns that wanted to come work for us when I was the red team lead over at AAA. So these are the types of questions that I ask. All right, and then down here, this is one I very rarely had to go this low, but sometimes look, people have different focuses in their studies. Sometimes people are focused on academic stuff. I had some of the students that didn't get any of these. They just didn't. But then I'd come down here and maybe they had been focusing on GRC. And I always forget what the acronym GRC stands for, but it's basically the security engineers that come and bug you all the time. It's governance, something, and compliance. I forget what the R is always. FaintCalf always corrects me because I never remember what the R is. But it's governance, something, and compliance, right? And risk. That's what, risk. Governance, risk, and compliance. And at the end of the day, we could just say they're the ones that make us do stuff, right? But governance is like adhering to your standards and protocols. That's also compliance. Governance is kind of understanding who you're beholden to. Compliance is that you're adhering to your policies and standards, and then risk is kind of this, you know, we try to say everything's going to happen in a beautiful, perfect way, but then anybody that's a realist knows that that's not going to happen. We're going to get dirty. We're going to have to break some of the standards. Like if you tried to apply all CIS benchmarks to a server and then use that server for anything, I would just giggle. There's no way that server is going to be useful for anything. Now, if you wanted to set up CIS benchmarks on a server and perfectly adhere to them and just run the server to run a server with perfect compliance, you could do that. Yeah, that would work. Yeah. Oh, Tagore, did we go to ads? Also, guys, I'm on YouTube as well. I don't know if anybody prefers. I don't think anybody here probably prefers that, but we do have YouTube in case anybody likes to do that, and just to kind of keep track of these, because I know people wanted to have me keep track of these kind of going forward or whatever. All right. Then, by the way, anybody that's kind of hanging out that's wondering what's going up above me here, that's just a rolling loop of questions and stuff that you can talk about. We were we had a poll earlier today up in Discord, and I was kind of thinking about that poll where a lot of people want the basics, and but then also some people want to like hang out. Hey, thanks for that, Colkis. I appreciate the subscription at tier 1. You guys don't have to do that, but that's always appreciated. Keeps me motivated and stuff. By the way, I don't know if I told you guys this. Normally I stream from 4 to 5 today, my time. I came on a little bit early, but the wife's watching a movie with her friends. It's date night. Friday nights are always date night for me and my wife, right? That's very important. But she decided to go. She asked me a couple weeks back, and it's super funny because she's like, "I told you about this," and I'm like, I don't know. I need to get. You know who I need to get? I need to get the. Hold on. This is the one I need to make. I need to make. Because this is how I feel right here. If you guys are familiar with Caveman SpongeBob, do they have him doing that? Do they have that as a gift somewhere I could use? Where he's just like, that's how I feel pretty much all the time when my wife talks to me. Oh yeah, here's some gifts. But I just need him going like, ooh, ooh, ooh. All right, anyways, I'll find one of those off stream. But yeah, I'm basically like this. But the wife told me, she's like, oh yeah, I told you about this, and I was like, yeah, I guess you did tell me about it. And last weekend, this time we were driving up to Vegas. This time last weekend, actually, we might have just hit Vegas right around then. But yeah, do all the Linux, guys. That's important. So, oh, Simlicon, you said you feel that way when you speak English. So sad. I apologize. That's that feels terrible. But on the plus side, just working in the Linux world, you don't have to talk to people very often. In fact, I kind of sit around and make it a game sometimes where I try to just not even talk in meetings and stuff, and see how long I can go without talking to people. I have to type to people all day, all the time, but I don't talk too often. And it's funny because if you saw me here, or if you saw me like in a classroom setting, which I kind of just think of this as a classroom setting, you would probably think like, oh, Scott's an extrovert. I am not an extrovert. I do not want to be outside. I don't mind being outside, but I'm saying like I don't want to talk to people. I get energy back when I'm doing stuff by myself. So I'm definitely, you call the meeting cipher, yeah. I've had to do that before, and I've had to be like, because I'm always like the tech lead, but I don't ever want to be the manager. I want to be the technical one that people listen to because I know what I'm doing, not because I want the actual power, right? I don't want to actually have job power over people. All right, but let's go with this. So what is NIST? NIST is the National Institute for Standards and Technologies, and then I said, do you know any of the NIST standards? So the students might be familiar with some of the NIST standards, right? Well, hey, Cypher, any way that can get you in, right? If you've got to be up and over and then move over, like I had a friend that did a lot of audit, and audit is still technically security, and then he moved up, and then he moved over into more security because he had done audit for a long time. That's how a lot of people do it, but a lot of people hate that. A lot of people just absolutely hate, because let me tell you, as a security, as a systems engineer, you solve all the problems. But as a security engineer, a lot of times you don't get to solve the problems. You get to just identify the problems and kick them over the wall to people that don't like you. So it's like, there's this balancing thing. I don't think half the people I work with know what I sound like. I like that. Oh, you write stories? Oh, Cypher. I'm okay with Agile. I like Agile, but if we could just do it in Kanban, I'm fine with Kanban too. Actually, my favorite methodology of all my years of doing this that I've seen come across is definitely Kanban, because if you left me to my own devices and I just had like my whiteboard here sitting, because I always have a whiteboard next to me in an office, not in my home office though, which is funny. I should probably put one up over here, but I'm always working on stuff on my whiteboard and moving it for me to keep track of anything. Yeah, Scrum Gile, yeah. Oh man, and I've made memes. You guys can go find my memes on Agile up in our Discord, but I have one that's like, that's not very cash money of you, bro, but that's not very agile of you, because man, have you guys ever noticed that the first thing people do when they get into an agile meeting is stop being agile? There's 4 tenets of agility. There's only 4 things that you need to do for agile, and most people just don't do them. So anyways, but let's go back to NIST. Why do we care about the NIST standards? Are we beholden to them as most companies? Most companies are not beholden to NIST in any way. But let me show you why you might want to know like the NIST standards. Let me pull up real quick. I'll go to my Prolog presentations here, and I'll hop up on Intro to Cloud Computing. This is just one of my general ones over here. We'll go Intro to Cloud Computing, and we'll drop down here and talk about some of these things, and we'll say what the heck are these, and then we come down here and I say what is cloud computing, and this is what most people think cloud computing is right here, right? Let's all go back to the waterfall. Yeah, well, waterfall, yeah, has its own problems, and it's definitely super slow, right? I grew up on waterfall though, but mainly I got to avoid the waterfall part of it because I'm not a software engineer. I'm just the systems guy, so my stuff would get pushed out. Last thing, you didn't really miss TLS. We just kind of talk about it as we go. It may even pop up on one of these slides again. But let me show you guys something about the cloud. People think this is the cloud, but this is the cloud. It's actually a very well-defined thing via NIST. So this is NIST down here, National Institute for Standards and Technology. Skip the verification, and I will send this to you guys. And if you didn't know this, it's very well defined what the cloud is. But most people think, because you've been told, that's SpongeBob, because you've been told, you think that it's just, it's a Linux servers out there. That pretty much is what it is. But it's also these essential characteristics, these service models, these deployment models that are very well defined. So before we go too far into that, though, if you say no, then I ask, what are you familiar with? Have you seen HIPAA? Have you used PCI DSS? Have you used GDPR? All 3 of these are pretty big in the industry. All 3 of these are things you probably want to know. Health insurance, portability, and something act, right? Health insurance, portability, and accounting act, maybe, or something like that. And then PCI DSS is how you take your credit cards. Fun fact, something interesting. All 3 of these, of all 3, privacy, that's what it is. Health insurance, privacy, something act, right? But think about this. This is an interesting one that I asked the students if they do know what all 3 of them are. How does one of these differ than the other 2? One of these is way different than the other 2, and which one is it, and why does it matter that you know that? And then if they tell me that they have seen one of these standards, I say go ahead and explain the standard to me. It's always funny to me that it's health insurance. People think it's health information, but it's actually health insurance. Privacy and Accountability Act, maybe? Authorization Act? Accountability Act, I think. I think it's accountability. I forget. But it was designed by a government, the U.S. government, to move data around, right? And how you can share data between systems. Specifically around really all user data, but that. And then GDPR, does anybody know what GDPR is and where that's applied? And has anybody figured out which of these 3 is different than the other 2 and why it matters? One of these is exceedingly different than the other 2, and it matters big time. And I'll explain it to you here. It matters, but it doesn't matter, but then it does matter again. So it's one of those things that it matters that they're different, but then it doesn't matter that they're different because you have to adhere to it anyways, and then it doesn't matter again. It's like this circle of It's like an Ouroboros, right? The snake that's eating itself for all of eternity. Do I have that up there right? Ah, it is HIPAA, isn't it? Yeah. I think I have that right. Is it HIPAA? I'm messing that up. But the point is, do we know what it is? Oh, damn it. Ah, yeah, it is HIPAA. Accountability, that's what it is. I thought I had it right. HIPAA. All right. Which one's different? Who knows why one of them is different? Hey, thanks for the follow. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Follows are free, guys. You know, you can follow anybody you want on the internet here. Doesn't cost you nothing, and I always appreciate them, so it's good to use. Portability, not privacy. Yeah, you're right. It is health insurance, portability, and yeah. But which one of these is different? Let me explain ways in which these are different. This one comes from which body? Does anybody know what organization and body this comes from? GDPR is a certain set of block of countries. That's true. I wouldn't call FDA. I mean, I guess FDA could be a security thing. Yeah, HIPAA is U.S. government. GDPR is European, right? The European Union, and these standards you must adhere to if you are in either of those jurisdictions. But what about this one? Who made this one, and is this a requirement anywhere? It might surprise you to know you don't have to play with PCI DSS anywhere. There's nobody on planet Earth that can tell you have to adhere to that. You can go like this to anybody you want that tells you have to follow a PCI standard. PCI standards are pretty easy to follow, but they do add costs to your organization and stuff, and you go like this. But it's just a standards body. It's right. But hold on. If you want to take credit card information from people, you have to use PCI DSS. So this is the difference. This one and this one will send you to jail. This one will only cause your company financial ruin. And when I worked at AAA, by the way, there's 4 levels of PCI, and it deals with how many transactions a month you take over credit cards. That's the only different. That's of the 4 levels. That's the only one. And I think once you get over, I forget if it's 75 or 100,000, you're at the highest level. But hold on, this one, where I was at AAA, if we didn't adhere to this, you get once you fail an audit, if you ever fail an audit, you have a certain amount of time to remediate, and if you don't, you are fined $5,000 a day to keep taking credit cards, or you cannot take credit card information. Won't that financially? Can any of you tell me right now that your organization that you work for can take cash? Because if you can't take cash, unless you're a hot dog stand at like Fenway Park, $5,000 a day is what we would have been fined if we could not maintain. And PCI DSS always requires third-party auditors. You cannot just be like, I checked myself for good. You can do that in certain things, and then you may get an audit, like how government programs tend to be. But with PCI DSS, you must have a third-party audit. Yeah, so to have PCI compliance, I'm just going to tell you guys right now, there's no government on planet Earth that will tell you that you must have PCI compliance. But if you want to work with the credit card vendors, you will have PCI compliance. So that's the difference. And that's an important thing for like a governance and risk compliance person to know. These ones, if you don't adhere to these ones, somebody is probably going to jail. And because of the way that Sarbanes-Oxley was written, if you're a publicly traded company, it's probably a C-suite person and maybe people down underneath them. These ones will send people to jail. This one will only cost your company financial ruin. So how do you want to do it? My wife does such audits. You don't want her auditing you. She'll eat your lunch. Yeah. And these audits, surprisingly, are simple. You just keep gathering information and giving it to them and that kind of stuff. Hey, there's a little Nightbot there telling you guys what we're doing here, telling you guys how our stream works, and the whole point of this is to get you guys doing more Linux. We're talking about stuff. Up here, there's some questions that are going. That's like a little challenge thing. If you want to do it, you can. Is that one running? Okay, that one's running. Good. Yeah, you guys are allowed to do that. Is that Heartbound OST we hear in the book? Yeah, Wusa. You know, there's a few streamers who I kind of like check out their stuff every now and then, but I had never like followed them. I just kind of would hang out in there every now and then. And the other day I was hanging out in Pirate Software, and he was like, "Hey, if you ever run my music, as long as you're doing other things, I won't hit you." So yeah, I was like, yeah, I was hanging out over there, and I was like, yeah, I'll run that. So yeah. So yeah, his stuff's pretty good. I have it. It's mixed in with some Dark Fantasy Studio stuff that I bought off a Humble Bundle a while back. So it kind of goes from like super dark to like not as dark. Can you copy a file? Yeah, that's actually good. I'm gonna call you Hoover because I don't know how I'm supposed to say that, but I'm gonna call or whoever. That is perfect. We copy from here to there, from there to here, and it is surprisingly simple. Like those two things that were just shown, Hoover. Yeah, those two things that were just shown, guys, are right for that question. Then you'd be surprised how few engineers ever commit that to memory. But after you've been doing systems for a while, you should be able to push and pull things pretty fluidly because you're going to find that that's how you get data out of a system, or you pull part of a log, or you grep through a log for something you need, and then you need to pull it down and show it, and it's just too much to maybe copy and paste and throw in an email. So maybe you got to pull it down. That's super useful. That's super powerful right there. And what I do, I use a tool, those exact same two commands for SCP, those same two commands right there. GUI stuff. When I have to interface, so at work, I have to interface with a Windows system. So I always have in my Windows systems, so this is like my home Windows system, if I go to downloads, at any time, I can do pscp.exe, and I don't need the help, but if I wanted to run the help, PSCP you download from the same place you get PuTTY. It is the exact same command set as SCP, just to your Windows machine. Yeah, I use SCP all the effing time. So what happens is there's a Red Hat tool called what is that called? It's their investigation. It's all their data gathering. It's called something generate report, or it's there's an error report. What the heck's that called? And then I'll just pull it down from servers when I'm done, because they'll just make it a nice little tar file for me. SOS report. They call it an SOS report. So if you guys ever work in Red Hat, all Red Hat machines have an SOS report on them, and all of them you can go in there, type in SOS report, and they'll generate all kind of the salient data points, like what the networking is doing, and if there's any errors on the interfaces, all the stuff. It'll gather a bunch of it up, and it'll drop it in a report that you can just tag right up to your people on the other side. Now, some and you say, wait a minute, Scott, but why would you ever have to do that? Couldn't you just send it right off that system? I work on a lot of air-gapped systems, guys. So an air-gapped system is all of my compute nodes and all of my nodes that are not my infrastructure nodes are kind of off hanging out in the world doing other things. They are not part of the world. They have no route out. Only few of my systems ever typically in like a high performance compute. So I may have 1,200 nodes that might be having a problem. And if I do an SOS report on some of them, I'll gather them up to my management node and then pull them out. And that's a thing we can do. You could also do SFTP transfers and stuff. There's a lot of ways to move data, but that SCP one is one of the ones that I think will really help you. SimboCom, you said, do you recommend MX Linux for newbies or start with Debian? I don't like Ubuntu too much. All right, so to answer that question about like what I think you should do for newbies, I would tell you the easiest thing to do to start getting your hands on Linux is go to Killer Coda. It's completely free. These happen to be my labs and our professional Linux user group labs here. But if you don't want to do our labs, you can come to Killer Coda and you can do any labs out there. And they've got playgrounds where you can just drop into an Ubuntu environment. And I would tell you, come in here, and every one of these commands up here that are being asked, you could be doing in one of these sandbox environments. So I can say right here, can I check how many disks and partitions I have? Yeah, all I have to do for that is ls block -F or block ID, something like that, or ls block by itself, right? And I can see, yeah, I've got the one disk and the 3 partitions on that disk. Boom. I can answer that question right there. And you could be doing that at any time kind of as you go through all this. All right. Oh, cloud. We don't need the cloud one up right now. Which one were we going through? We were going through one of these, weren't we? Did I go off on a tangent as I'm off to do? Yeah, we weren't doing this one right now. Oh, I was on the questions. I was on the questions over here. Yeah, that's what I would do to get my hands on. If you wanted to build a system and you did want to use something else, I would use either Fedora, just put Fedora on a box, or Rocky or Alma Linux, because those ones are going to be ones you're still going to run into. You can download Red Hat. You can still get a hold of Red Hat, even though it's a little different now, but you can still get Red Hat directly. You just don't get updates for it. All right. So then I ask some of these things, and these are some things. What's another question I would ask to my junior or my intern security engineers, right? These were security engineering intern questions I used to ask. Can you describe the working concepts of a firewall? Could you, anybody here, could you tell me kind of like what a firewall is doing? What does it even mean to be a firewall? Like, that's kind of a big nebulous term, right? Like what does that mean? And then, if you know what that is, do you know what a next-gen firewall is? And then do you know what a web application firewall is and what layer of the OSI model they operate at? Colchis, that is something that most all firewalls do. They will block connections from certain ports. That is a thing most firewalls will do. Down here, then I keep asking, and this depends on how much they answer, but what is meant by the term embryonic connection in TCP? And what is meant to be stateless or stateful in a connection? What do all of these things here mean, right? So these are my firewall questions that I'd ask. What's a next-gen firewall? A next-gen firewall can know more things about the entire stack than something else. Who saw it? In my humble opinion, the firewall is like a security guy at a gate. If you check in on your list or not, you can't go to the party. That's a good way to think of it, yeah. And there are a lot of things that it can check on a frame trying to come in to it, right? And if we wanted to see these, I actually have some talking on this. We had a Linux primer or a networking primer a while back, and we're not going to go through all of the networking primer, but what did I call it? I think I called it, should be primer, prologue, networking primer. This is up on YouTube, so if you guys wanted to see this and you wanted to see us go through this, it's on YouTube. It was only uploaded a few days ago, but this is our networking primer. And if we come down here, this is all this stuff, all these subnetting things, all these different things going on. And when we got to layer 7, we talked about firewalls and what firewalls are. And these are answers to some of those questions I just asked. What's my channel name on YouTube? I think this, tell me if you would, if you don't mind, tell me if that takes you there. Just let me know if that takes you there, because I think that should get you to our channel. It should be Het Tanis, yeah. And that's Ranger Dog. That's Ranger from the other side of the room than you guys normally see him. So you guys can hang out and do that stuff if you want. Hey, thanks for the follow. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. El Chico Linux. El Chico de Linux. I like that. That's a good name. But anyways, we did one a while back on firewalls. And if you see over here, as we step through the OSI model, I talked about each different pieces. But next generation firewalls are application level firewalls. So they're up there paying attention to application level stuff. They're aware of what the application is doing. So they may know common paths that people are going to use. They may know what the application tends to do as far as port calls and headers and all that kind of stuff. So it can look for well-formed application requests. It can look for multiple concurrent connection attempts from one source. And it can do that at all kinds of different layers. It can look at if a Java Web Token is coming in, or people call them JOTs. If a Java Web Token is coming in and it doesn't have a, it doesn't have a timestamp within the last 7 days or something, it can just ignore it. So there's all kinds of things that a next gen firewall can do in front of your application, right? And the easiest way to think of a next gen firewall is it is application aware. It knows what kind of paths are coming through it. If any of you are ever like, hey Scott, I want to get into like hitting APIs and playing with like Burp Suite and those kind of things, there is a free academy out there called Burp Suite. Sorry, so it's on PortSwigger. So you go to you go here and you go to portswigger.net, and this is a free academy that you can sign up for. Now the tests, if you take their tests, are not free, but the test itself, or sorry, the studying itself and doing the workup in there and playing with Burp Suite is free. They want you using their tool, and their tool is free and open source, right? Oh, we're jumping over to Linux security topics now, so anybody that wants to go, I don't think a lot of these have been up on stream before, these security ones. So, okay. But then what's a web application firewall? A web application firewall is applied typically by a third party, like a cloud provider, directly in front of your different web applications. What can it do? It can also be aware of a lot of this stuff, but it can also block ports based on countries and do all kinds of things, right? I think I have an example right here. So this is the web application firewall in AWS. If you ever go for your AWS security, you need to know what your web application firewall can sit in front of. It can sit in front of your CloudFront. It can sit in front of any of your application load balancers. It can sit in front of your should be able to sit in front of your S3 buckets that are public facing, and it can sit in front of your API gateway. So those are things that I know of for sure that it can sit in front of. But it sits here and requests come in, and whether they get blocked or allowed is something that is a decision. But before they get allowed, they are always going to be logged, and those logs can be sent a bunch of different ways. Hey, Deprecated Drain, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I appreciate you guys pulling up a chair. It looks like we're over 200 now for people, not just today, but that have pulled up a chair and said they wanted to learn something. Kinesis Data Firehose functions as a buffer, and it fills up the buffer, and then it tips over into Amazon S3, and then from Amazon S3 we can have Lambda functions that are triggered based on object put events. We can also have Amazon Athena running SQL-like queries against those to find when errors happen and this and this and this, and they can generate back into either, you know, allowed lists or denied lists or SQL injection or all kinds of things. There's all kinds of things that a web application firewall can do. And I gave this example because I used to run the web application firewall for AAA. That was one of my tasks as the team lead because we lost the two guys that ran it. And when I say we lost them, like they fired one. Let me take that back. They didn't fire him. They reduced force, and then they hired a contractor right back, and it was like, it was ridiculous. But anyways, there's AWS managed rules. There's allowed denied lists, so you can allow specific people to come in. But what happened with us on one of them, and this was really funny, we were using not the AWS WAF, we were using Akamai WAF, and there was actually an effort to get us all behind either one web application firewall or the other. And I believe they were going towards the Amazon side, but I don't know. And we had a question. We had a set of APIs that would get hit, not from API Gateway because they were on-prem, and we had these APIs that would get hit, and we triggered a bunch of SQL injection on this Akamai website, on our Akamai web application firewall. And what happened was, and I explained this the other day on stream, when people give you data with an API, they can do puts, they can do gets, they can do whatever all of your HTTP, let's see if we can find them. Hold on. It's post, put, get. Like if we look up these, here's all the methods right here. Yeah, you want to know most of these methods, right? Because these are the things you're going to allow through. And this goes back to this goes back to what you're allowing. By the way, guys, W3 Schools, one of my favorite places to reference on the internet. I almost said on the line. I've ironically said on the line for so long that I almost said that for real. TLDP.org is the other place that I think you should know. Like, you should know those two places because they're so good for referencing things, right? One is good for referencing things on the internet, and one is good for referencing Linux. TLDP is the Linux documentation project. But anyways, on a SQL injection, we had, coming through our firewall, a bunch of put requests to put data that was structured in a semi-structured JSON format into our system. And what it was a bunch of credit institutions and like their routing information, that kind of stuff was being put in, and we were getting like big batches of like a few hundred of them at a time from one of our third parties somewhere, right? And so what was happening though, just real quick at a high level, is there were a bunch of fields, and one of the fields was description of, and then the description had a name for the bank or the credit institution, right? And a lot of credit institutions, just think real quick about banks and savings and loans and stuff. You've probably heard that a lot of them are credit unions, right? Union, right? Union is a keyword in SQL. The other one is like, they would say like choice select first credit union. Well, select is also a keyword in SQL. So we were getting these pushes from one of our vendors, one of our like third party people that would talk into our API, and they were triggering as SQL injection because it was reading the JSON in the put requests. So we had to whitelist them because we trusted that they were good. Hey, let's see. I'm a Z-Dren. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Thanks for the follow. We're just going over, we're talking about stuff. And we got into web application firewalls and we talked a little bit. Colchis, it was a lot to track down. I was the guy who was having to be hands-on and looking at the data that was getting blocked out and saying, these are the names and stuff that are coming through, and it's being triggered as a SQL injection. And then we were sitting there, and it popped in our heads like this. Are you just holding on to the can? And it's like, wait a minute. Yeah. So anyways, if you guys have never seen that, that's a great episode of The Simpsons there, where Homer is just simply holding on to the can. All right, if you're not familiar with that reference, go look it up because it's really funny. Doesn't it mean that they can be leveraged as an attack as a weak link in the chain for bypassing the WAF rules? Yeah, so now they can technically, if somebody could compromise them and then also knew that we had whitelisted their SQL injection, absolutely. This is the cost of doing business. It's like I tell you guys, if you want to sell diamonds, right? If you want to sell diamonds on the street corner, and you've got a little shop, right? You have to open the front doors to sell your jewelry. But doesn't that invite people to come in and rob you? It's one of these things. It's the same thing it's the same thing here. Anything you open up, anytime you open up a web port on the internet, you run the risk of something happening. So, are we memeing? Both is good. What did I miss? I missed something. What happened with Cypher? I missed the Cypher thing. Yeah, Cypher. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. This is an older one, but if you want to see us, the only bad thing, and guys, this is why I did not do YouTube for so long, is because I don't want stuff out there that isn't like crisp and clean. So I really wanted to like run through these just like in a clean format for you guys, but we'll do it. We'll live. By the way, you guys can keep doing the questions that are popping up in the top right as well if you want. I decided to do those for the people that wanted more basic stuff or wanted to challenge themselves a little bit. You're good, Cypher. I just missed whatever it was. So this is a workflow. This is a very common type of workflow of things that we could be looking at or doing. And your web application firewall does not sit in front of things that are over in... No, Cypher, look, I love bad jokes, probably more than most people. In fact, I once had an engineer tell me, an engineer I really respected too, his name's Matt Stenger. He once told me, he goes, Scott, you like memes way too much for a guy as intelligent as you are. And I was like, that feels really good, but also it hurts a little bit. Because he was basically saying that I'm an idiot. But but yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I just missed whatever it was. So, all right, so we were talking web application firewall. This is a workflow. Can I show you guys my favorite thing I've ever put into a slide deck? Hold on. We're going to go up to AWS topics because I want to show you guys, if you've never seen how Kinesis Data Firehose works. That's how it's Shishiadoshi. That's how I think of Kinesis Data Firehose. It's a buffer, right? It goes based off of one of two conditions, either interval seconds, and you can set them down to 60 seconds. So every 60 seconds it'll fill up and tip over. Or you can have it be when so many megs are hit, all the way up to 128 megs. So it is whatever is first of the maximum of, you can have 128 max or you can have min. So if you set the minimum to 1 meg, after 1 megabyte fills up, it's going to dump out, right? It's also important to note, and this is not really related here, but Kinesis Data Firehose has no storage and no replayability. So when you hit Kinesis Data Firehose, it needs to dump somewhere, like an S3 bucket, or even over to Kinesis Data, Kinesis Streams, or something else. But Kinesis Data Firehose has no replayability. So if anybody ever tells you, like, or you're ever in a test and they're like, "Hey, do this," you can't do that. What was this? What was the last question? Hold on, I need to go look. Can you encrypt a file? Yeah, using VI. I thought that would be a fun one. I don't know if anybody had used it. Using VI filter or ROT13 encoding. Yeah, so VI-X will actually do that for you, I believe. I haven't done that in a while though, so let's go make sure I'm not lying to you guys. If I say VI-X some file, and then I go in here and say, oh, here's my encryption key. Use my standard one. This should be using Blowfish. It should be using one of the Blowfish algorithms, but this is my data. It should be secure, right? Escape :WQ, cat some file should be a hot mess, right? I don't mean ROT13 as encryption. What happened? I missed something. Would you encrypt text file using VI? You can. It should be Blowfish. So I forget though. We probably have Man Blow. That's not good. Man Blowfish. I forget. I don't have it in here. You can look it up. VI uses one of those by default, and I thought it was the Blowfish algorithm. And the Blowfish algorithm has a really kind of interesting history if you want to go look it up. Oh yeah, -X. So some file. Now it's going to ask me what's my encryption key, and I'll use my trusty 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I should be able to see my data. Oh, it is Blowfish 2. There it is. If you guys want something, yeah, it's Blowfish 2. Go if you go look up Blowfish and then you dig down, kind of, people love going on the rabbit hole of the internet. Go look at the significance of the Blowfish 2 algorithm of old algorithm competitions that used to happen. I don't think they do those anymore, but I think it was NIST or the DoD that used to have these algorithm competitions. And to not go too much into it because I don't remember the guy's name, but you can go and look, like, all these other algorithms that were out there were like backed by all these like computer data scientists and like these research teams at colleges and stuff. And this dude just walked in and was like, I've been doing this myself. And that's part of like the Blowfish algorithm. Yeah. So you guys can go look that up. That's a really interesting, fun little thing. It looks like we're on General System 2 on our questions now. But yeah, go look up Blowfish and how it's like this dude was just doing it himself. And he was like toppling over like all these organizations that were like backed by like hundreds of mathematicians and all these guys with PhDs in math. It's a really interesting story. Go look at it and stuff. I forget all of the backstory on it, but I just remember it was like every time there was one of these competitions, it was like all these PhD names, and then it was like that dude with Blowfish. I'm pretty sure that's accurate, or it might be another one I'm thinking about. I'm like 95% sure I'm thinking of Blowfish. Yeah, like how the hell is this guy keeping up? And it's like, because computers are that good, where honestly there's nothing out there. I don't think there's anything out there that most of you probably couldn't at least do. Would it take your system longer to process? Absolutely. But if you had something that you were doing that was truly interesting, like, compute is way down in price, especially if you go out and use spot instances. Which, by the way, if you guys are going to do spot instances, let me do a shout out to Fisherman Guy Bro. He is one of our resident people to follow. You should follow him if you don't. He's been streaming a lot because he's working on getting affiliate. But he is a solutions architect with a cloud provider, and he's the guy to talk to. By the way, he got a solutions architect pro before I did, but we both got that. In fact, I think we have all the same certs right now until he goes and gets the one that I won't take again. But anyways, he's a good one to talk to about that, and go ask him on his stream, like, hey, how would you do this? How could I get 10 instances of stuff running pretty cheap because I want to run a test against this. Man, there's algorithms out there that you can just download and modify, and there's so much stuff. But like the cheapest thing on planet Earth right now is storage. Like you need like 30 terabytes of storage. I can get it for you like by Tuesday, right? Like, it's easy. I'm kidding about that. I could, but that's not the point. The point is that stuff's cheap. But the next cheapest resource is CPU, if you can do it smart, like with a spot instance where it's real low. After that is memory. Memory's real cheap as well, pretty cheap. And then like really one of the things that like the cloud gets you on, if we're being honest, is kind of moving with data around the network, pulling it back out. Uname-A, is that right? Can you tell me the running kernel version? That's it. Uname-A, and if you want to do something with it, Uname-R. GPUs are not cheap, Fisherman. That's true. In fact, we have buy-ins and stuff for GPUs. And by the way, guys, it's funny. This is the first time I've run the stream with that thing up there, and people are just like throwing commands at me in stream, and I'm like, what the hell are people doing? I keep forgetting that that's up there. So again, I'm back to this. Since I don't have my caveman one yet, that'll be me for now. And then this one, we're doing it live. all right. I think those things. I think stupid stuff like that is so funny that I don't even know why. But yeah, that little thing, we were doing those, and I was like, I could be talking about all these other things while we're doing this. Yeah, no, now Flying Wookie, OS release might not tell you the kernel. I always do this because that works almost across all systems. This probably won't tell you the kernel. Nope. So my ways of getting the kernel would be uname-A. It would be this is a tricky one. D message head. That'll tell you the kernel version right there too. Right there, boom. There's the kernel version, right? And I feel like we said that the other day too. Like people were messing around. FreeBSD USName-A. The other one is LSBoot. LSBoot will tell you your kernels right there because all your kernels are kept in boot. And then if you wanted to see how they booted, you go over to grub. Right? CD boot grub. So, anyways, those are little thought exercises for you guys. That's something that we call in the like adult education, actually just in the learning field in general. That's the Socratic method, right? I'm asking you questions, you're giving feedback, and we're talking through it. And guys, there was one I learned the other day that was like, and I've already since forgotten it. It was a really good one for getting all the environmental variables. I don't know if Sending's around. I know Sending wrote it down. But we were talking about all the ways to get NeoFetch. Somebody did mention NeoFetch. Flying Wookie, I don't think you were here either. At least I don't remember you being here. And somebody said like all the things you're saying the other day, so maybe I'm losing it. Cypher, you were probably here because I saw both of those pop up the other day. All right, we went through this, so if you're like, hey, Scott, could we go over this again? We absolutely could go. ENV was one of them. Print ENV is one. Set was one. Set gives you a lot of stuff. But then there was one other one that somebody mentioned that I don't remember. Not right off. I could go look at it. But this was the firewall stuff, like stateful versus stateless. Could you answer that? Do you know how stateful versus stateless works? Well, a stateful firewall keeps track, and it tends to have a trusted inbound, or a trusted inside, and an untrusted outside. This is how the old PIX firewalls work. They had a 0 to a 100 interface, and it did that. I pissed away an evening learning how to rice bash so I could have my... Oh, wow. Jeez. Every packet is evaluated both ways for validity with ACL rules. So stateful and stateless are ways that you can look at traffic. And does my system remember it, or does it treat everything as a new connection? And that's an important thing for you to kind of know. All right. And then access control list. We talked about how they can filter and stuff. There's a whole, guys, you could go read all, or you can go watch all this stuff, and I kind of talked through all this stuff on there. And we did Wireshark examples during it, so I kept pulling up Wireshark and SAN and all that stuff. All right, let's get rid of that. Let's go back here. And I said down here, can you describe the concepts of a firewall? We touched pretty much all those, or I told you where to go get more, right? So then I said, do you know what the MITRE attack framework is? Do you know when you might want to know it, or why you would want to know it? And then also, I would accept any other attack framework than the MITRE one. So if you told me, Scott, I've never heard of the MITRE one, but I know the CEH one, I'd say show me, right? Like I'd be like Morpheus, like show me that you know how this works. But if you guys have never seen this, this is a great page. If you tell me, Scott, I want to get into red team offensive security. Hold on, do I have that quote up still? Let me see if that quote's up. Oh, it's Friday. Damn it. Hold on. Let me fix my little Friday afternoon thing. Control S. And it says, everyone thinks they want to play offense red team, but no one bothers to realize that 99.5% of you are always on defense, which is the blue team, right? So I'm going to put blue team. So people tell me all the time they want to get into security, and I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, well, I'm a server guy. And I'm like, you are in security. You are in security. You're on blue team, though. What most people say when they say they want to get in security, everybody wants to hack. And I also have this other quote that's also for me, that's everybody wants to be a hacker, but nobody wants to learn the basics, right? If you want to get into doing this stuff, and you're already in tech, but you want to move to security, you're already doing security. You just need to learn the avenues in which, so all this stuff that I do as like I'm a server engineer, right? Like I build servers, I do platforms, I do that kind of stuff. I'm going to go down here to the bottom. This is all blue team stuff that I do every single day. I need to update software. I need to remove unused software. I build servers as a baseline for my entire organization, and then I build the repeatable Ansible playbooks that build them the same way every time. That's security. That's blue team. It's blue stuff, but it's still security, right? I want to be in security. Proceeds to run a tenable vulnerable. Yeah. Fisherman, that's exactly what it is, right? One of the things, one of our guys that's around often down in the Discord, FaintCap, I've known him professionally. I've worked with him at 2 places. The guy's very good. He's come and talked to our group a couple times. Well, he's come and talked officially once, but he's been down there a few times in our talks. And because we do our Saturday talks, for people that don't know that, you're always welcome to come out and hang out down there. We don't charge anything for those. He once told me, we were just sitting there talking, he goes, you know what, Scott, all good security starts with an inventory. I'm like, I get that. All good server administration starts with an inventory, by the way. Just think about this for a second. If your environment, so I tell you you're in charge of this environment, I give you the private key, or I give you the access for whatever systems, and then you have access to all of them, but you don't know, like a week later, you don't know if you have 95 systems or 100 systems. You don't even know. You don't have a list. You don't have a name. You don't have, like, maybe you have a list of 95 servers, but I tell you, I think there's a few more in that environment. Do you have control of your environment? That's like a simple question. Do you have control of that environment or no? And then as a secondary, like as a security topic, if you don't know where all the, the floors are on the building, or you don't know where all the windows and doors are, do you have the building secure? Like if you're in like a hospital and you don't know where all the doors are, and I tell you zombies are coming, do you think you have that place secured if you don't know where everything is? It's the same example I give you guys, like RoboCop, right? Like RoboCop, I don't know if anybody here has ever seen the first RoboCop. I imagine some of you have, but he'll shoot your dick off, right? He does. He actually literally does that in the movie. It's terrible. He shoots right between a woman's legs and blows it. Probably kills the guy. But anyways, all right. I'll stop being crass, but that did happen in the movie. But anyways, thanks for the follow. Hopefully it's not because I just said that. Creator, hopefully this stuff's useful to you in other ways, like more serious ways. God, it would be terrible, like, if I spiked because I just talked about RoboCop blasting people. But my point is, even RoboCop, if you dropped him, he's from Detroit, right? I think Detroit's the city he's from in the comic. I don't remember. But you go drop him in Las Vegas, he's still going to be RoboCop, but he's not going to know any of the roads or any of that kind of stuff, right? And it's the same thing with this. You can be the best engineer in the world. If you do not have a good inventory, you do not have control of your system. By the way, it goes back to this. Hold on, where do I have this? I have this in my memes somewhere. But this was a serious thing. Oh, guys, I don't even know what's going to pop up on memes, so I apologize now. I think it's under here. I think I found it the other day and I pulled it up. Oh gosh, yeah. Very scared about some of the stuff that might pop up on these. Oh, this was my thing earlier about, in all the years of doing this engineering and teaching engineering, I've come to the conclusion that no one wants to learn the basics. Everyone just wants to be a hacker, man. That's funny to me. No, hold on. Yeah, this is the general idea of what I was saying the other day about, is there a glass window on the roof? Oh, yeah, we're effed. Yeah, and by the way, you don't even know if there's a glass window on the roof because you don't know how high the building is, right? Yeah, Cold Kiss, that hack thing, that was so funny to me. But look at this. This comes from The Far Side with Gary Larson. And it was the 2 ways to stop a runaway stage. But this is exactly what it's like in the server world, right? I recently came on a team. So I work for Redline Performance Solutions. I've told you guys that, and I am a full-time employee with them. But then they contract me out to some government contracts. The most notable one is NOAA. I have a public trust with NOAA. I also have top secret clearance with back from Lockheed and some other projects that I worked on. And I could reopen that if I ever need to. But the point is, with them, I'm on this. But I'm also with a college. And what happened with this college is this: there was 6 engineers on a team. One was the manager, but she's pretty good. She's an engineer. And then 4 of them quit, so there were only 2 left: the manager and this one other tech guy. And then I came on the team, and then we've rebuilt the team back up to like 5 or 6 people. But what happened was those 4 people that quit, well, they didn't quit. One retired after like 30 years, and then he had built the system from the beginning. And then a few other ones had come and gone over the years. There was like not 60, I think it was like almost 50 years of knowledge of this system that's been this high performance compute system is gone forever. It's gone because those guys all left. So our answer to how we're going to like build the system up looks like this. Like, do we go and just read this right here is the hard way. Go read everybody's scripts. They got a bunch of Perl scripts and flat bash scripts and hidden IPMI and all these connections and all this weird stuff. Or do we just build it from the scratch over again? And my method for deploying, like we just had a new deployment that we dropped, all those things I built brand new, net new, brand new RHEL versions of things, and I took control of the whole process, and it looks a lot more like this than this. Now these things, this is a lot harder, but all the systems that are running, I'm letting die in place. And I'm building my own stuff, mostly all centered around Ansible, and then I'm training the team on Ansible, right? Which actually might be something we do here in a little bit as well. All right. Then what's the One Sigma thing? I missed that. Okay. Anyway, so over here, let's get that out of the way. Also, remember everything on Discord. Look at that one. Hold on. I just think that one's funny. So, you know, terrifying stuff, right? Especially if you sleep alone. That's terrifying. Because if that happens, I'm pushing my wife at him to give me time to get to my gun. I'm just kidding. I don't have to push my wife anywhere to get to my gun. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Don't listen to me. All right, so we were up here. We talked about MITRE ATT&CK. I didn't even pull up MITRE yet. Why do you want to know your frameworks? Alias and unalias. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Alias to check all your aliases. Unalias to remove one. And then the next question I think after that is going to be, can you do that persistently? Let me pull up MITRE real quick. Hold on. Let's go to, whoops. If you didn't know this website exists, please go to this website if you tell me you want to be Red Team. If you tell me, hey, I want to be Hackermans, I want to be the one attacking my organization and getting all the fat loots from it. By the way, do I go on my rant about hacking? I already went on my rant a little bit about hacking. Let me pull something up here. Let me show you guys why I dislike the way people use the term hacking. I just dislike the way people use the term. I don't dislike the term. This was a guy, Kevin Mitnick. He died earlier this year. If you guys didn't ever follow him, he had some interesting things happen to him in the 90s, and then he had some interesting things happen kind of more recently. And actually, it's funny, my college still uses his training. So my college, DeVry, that I teach at, we use his training for just talking about how people try to get in and the types of calls you might get and the emails you might get and that kind of stuff. So my college still uses that. And then he just recently passed away, but he had started his own little security type thing. Yeah, he died. Yeah, I want to say June. I think he died in June. But we're going to talk about MITRE here in a second, but hold on. When did he die? It was July 16th. Yeah. Went around our server. It was kind of a big deal. Yeah. Yeah, he just passed away. But interesting stuff. He probably led more people into hacking as a term than and really just the science of computer adversarial thought and stuff than probably, I wouldn't say anybody else, but anybody that I can think of right off for damn sure. I can't think of anybody else right off. Skullcrusher said, what's the difference between Ansible, Chef, and Puppet? Do they work together or are they replacements for each other? Skullcrusher, they are all different. Here's the main differences. Chef and Puppet require, from a centralized server, for you to have agents out there. Agents have to be on all your nodes. And when your system, that's the centralized server, tries to talk to those systems, the agent needs to be up and responsive for everything to work. Now, if you manage all those agents and all the, you keep the file system from filling up and all these other things you should do, and you don't overtax your processes and cause those things to lock up and all kinds of other things, and all of your agents are always running, Chef and Puppet are great because they have an agent-based model where a server talks to those agents and gathers data and sets configurations and does all that. Ansible is exactly not that. Ansible is your machine only is the Ansible, which is the controller across galaxies, right? Comes from Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game, in case you guys didn't know that. Hey, Tani, how's it going? And with Ansible, the only thing you need is an SSH connection or WinRM if you're using Windows or something else. But all you need is a connection to those devices and Python on those devices. If you have that, and Ansible can authenticate you and get you in, you will make your connection, you will push over microcode for Python, Python will execute on that system and do whatever it has permissions to do and set them. So Ansible, Chef, and Puppet are not replacements for each other. They do not do the same thing. Chef and Puppet are excellent if you have organizations and you're already using them, keep using them. But now you have to maintain agents everywhere. In Ansible, you simply need to have an SSH connection over and Python on the device. That's it. Hey, Tani, how's it going? I appreciate that. Container guard dogs attack. Yeah, so I brought this up. This is from my hacking and risk management talk. I'll talk through this real quick. Guys, I detest the term. I detest the way people use the term, but let's talk MITRE real quick because MITRE was the original question. So this was I just linked this in chat. I will link it again in case anybody missed it. Yeah, Skull Crusher, that's the main differences between them. The reason you want to know the MITRE attack framework is because this is how compromise occurs in an organization. People start with reconnaissance. There is no way for you to hide. Remember I said earlier, if you want to sell diamonds or jewelry, you have to open up your storefront and let people in? That's true. That's true. Show me a diamond shop or show me like a jewelry shop in a mall or along some boulevard that isn't open for people to walk in. It can't happen. Could they have doors that lock? Could they have all these other things? Sure. But hold on. Can you use a script that automatically runs on any user login? There's a few ways to do this one. But to do the one that's popped up there. If you need me to stop one, by the way, Colchis, I can do it. Or if you ask me to, I'll go through it real quick. But yeah, with the MITRE framework, reconnaissance, you cannot be both on the internet sharing things out and also not allowing people to scan your web pages. That is simply not possible. Oh, you could block whole countries, sure, but then you block all of that potential revenue or whatever. You have to have a reason to block like a group of IPs or behaviors or bots or those kind of things. Otherwise, you're just blocking everything, right? So my point is, if you open for business, you're open for business. So reconnaissance has to happen. This is one I mentioned the other day. This is one that I never even heard anybody say this, but I guarantee you this is a common one. But if you tell me, hey Scott, you need to go attack USAA. I can't stand USAA. There's all kinds of reasons as a combat infantry guy that I can't stand USAA. But for one of them, let's just say that you said, hey Scott, I want you to go do some reconnaissance on USAA. Maybe not in a malicious way, right? Because, with some of agreements that I'm in with ISC squared and stuff, I'm not allowed to do things maliciously. But I could show you something that I would do. If you said, hey Scott, you have a reason to attack them, I would go right here. This is exactly what I would do. I would go to LinkedIn, right? And I would go to up here and I would go USAA. And I would see if anybody I'm connected to is with USAA. And if they are, maybe they're not. Oh, I know this guy, yeah. So I go look at his stuff, right? Actually, I know him, but he's not connected to me, but I used to work with him. And I'd come down here, and I'd look at what technologies they're using, right? ID groups, that's probably one of the last ones. I'd come in here, and I'd look at the technologies they're using. Then I'd go over to DICE, and I'd see if they have any job openings around React developers and Cisco web firewall experts and this and then. I'd go look at all their jobs. And very quickly, again, this is back to that you can't exist and not exist at the same time. I would figure out here in my reconnaissance what tooling I know they use, what's exposed to the internet. I'd be going and looking through their domains to just gather what are all the things I know about them. Where were they at in the news? What have they been compromised before? Did they sign a third-party? They've got a third-party agreement for Okta. They did a big Okta deploy, and they told everybody about it. And I'm like, Okta just got compromised a couple weeks ago, right? So, anyways, my point is, I look at all these things, right? And this is my point is, and I'm not telling you guys to go do this stuff maliciously. I'm telling you, if you're gonna tell me you're a red team guy, if you're gonna tell me you think like a hacker, right? You know, because you read a Mitnick book or something, then I'm gonna tell you this stuff is very important. Doing this stuff first. Then there's resource development, right? So go and start to see what things they have. Another thing too is go look at other attacks that are kind of common. Like look for attacks that have already happened. Do you know the diamond intrusion model analysis, right? Diamond model, right? How have other people compromised somebody? And if you don't know the diamond intrusion model analysis, let me pull this up for you. Where's the actual one? Hold on. Here's the actual one. This is the actual write-up of it, and this is the way the military, the government, and pretty much everybody that does any of these responses looks at them. So this is the framework for how you'll read about them as a blue team. And there's this, and I actually have a talk that shows adversary versus victim, infrastructure versus capabilities, and this is the technology axis here, their infrastructure, your infrastructure versus their capability, and this is the socio-political, which is the adversary versus the victim, who was trying, you know, was it for, you know, political gain? Was it for money? Like, I can do that for money. Hold on, I need to get that meme too. Hold on. So here's our caveman SpongeBob. I need to also get, I need this one. I need this one too, as one of mine. Anybody seen this from Rick and Morty? I can do that for money. I can answer that for money. Me and one of my buddies used to say that to each other all the time. But anyways, I need the caveman SpongeBob because like these ones just aren't cutting it. Wait, is Bill O'Reilly behind there? Oh, Bill O'Reilly goes behind all of them, so I need to make Bill O'Reilly later. All right. Anyways, all right. And interwebs. This is how people think through things, and this is how you do things. But this is how a lot of attacks occur, right here, right? So you need to understand them. If you tell me you want to be blue team or you want to be red team, and this is all the different kinds of things. Not even all of them. Waiting for the IT crowd. I have a few IT crowd refs. I'll just put this fire over here by the other fire. That one would be good. Hold on. Yeah, with the rest of the fire. Have you guys ever... One of my favorite memes where he's like... I'll just go put this... Because he's reading the fire extinguisher, and it's made in England, and it starts on fire. Yeah, and he writes the email, and he's like, fire, fire, fire. Yeah. No. And he's like, to whom it may concern, fire. I don't know. I love that. I'll put that over here. I need more of these. And I need to... So it's funny, like... You know, I just stream for fun. I'm like Saitama. I'm a hero for fun. So if you guys don't know who Saitama is, he's One Punch Man. I'm a guy who's a hero for fun. That's kind of like how I feel about this. When people are like, why do you do this stuff? I'm like, I don't really make any money at it. But where I'm going with that is I want to put these all on a stream deck. And, but before I can get a stream deck, I got to convince the wife that I can spend a bunch of money at it. Okay. Show the pit of the shell you're in. Does anybody know how to do that one? That one's a fun one. We did that one the other day, though, so I expect you guys know how to do that. But anyway, so this was Kevin Mitnick, and then down here, this was something, this is one of the reasons I dislike the term, the way that people use it. Hacking has nothing to do with gaining access in the systems. It simply doesn't. That's a byproduct of it. Hacking refers to the bending of a system to your will, setting a set number of inputs into a system and seeing what happens. Wusa, that's exactly right. It's echo $$. Call your next lab. Yeah. And then, that's funny. But this is how I think of the term hacking. Hacking is you hack away at a system until you figure out how it works. It's reading the field manual, right? RTFM. It's doing all these things to get into a system, right? So I'll talk real quick about, you know, the type of hacking, what it is, but down here I want to show you this. I'll show you like a way that you can look at this if you want to. Yeah, read all the things, right? You should get into, this is why I think Killer Coda is so useful. You can literally just get in here and say, I'm on Killer Coda and I've been using this lab and I've just been typing in commands and doing things. Somebody showed me some commands and I did it. Oh, we're down in the bash stuff. So now, can you set a variable of one data point? Can you set these things? I need to make one that's on, what's it called? Arrays and stuff like that down in. Actually, I'd let them do that in any language, but bash is fine. Okay, so over here, and then I get down into risk management. And risk management is part of your governance, risk, and compliance, right? So you need to know this risk management stuff if you tell me you want to get into being a GRC engineer. I don't think anybody wants to get into GRC. I think they just find themselves over there. They're like a fence turtle. If you guys have ever heard of a fence turtle or a post turtle. It doesn't know how it got up there, and it's just kind of, okay, all right, I'll stop. But hacking, right? This is what I was saying earlier. When people talk about like hacking, it's this. Hacking is a subset of engineering. There's planning involved first, and there's documenting at the far side, and then in between you just watch me go like that. Cypher, do you like compliance? Some people do like compliance. To be fair, some people like compliance, and that's fair. And I'm not trying to shit on anything. I'm just saying I think a lot of people have like this romanticized view of like what doing security is, and then they get into like audit or compliance to start, and then they hate their lives for like the first 5 years. So I've watched a lot of IT guys jump over into security, and they're doing audit or basic compliance stuff, and they hate it because they're not fixing anything. They're just really, like, in some cases, and I hate to say this, they're being like a tools monkey in a lot of cases. So, okay. But anyways, this is how I think of the concept of hacking. It's a subset of engineering. It's a very important part, but it is planning first, hacking around. Like, if you guys watched me all day, you'd be like, this guy has no idea what he's doing. But when it's done, I will have documentation. By the way, some of you were probably here the other day when I was over here and I was putting together my lab. I was putting together my lab, and I was just like writing stuff out over here, and it probably looked like a big hot mess. But when it's done, the lab will be real clean, and it'll look real good. And that's what I tell you guys. Like, you watched me hack away at that lab, and it was just a big hot mess. It is all important, Tani. I don't think that it's not. I just, you know, it's. I feel like it's that scene from The Other Guys where they come in and they're like, yeah, we do all this stuff and we do all the cool stuff. Thank you for letting us be awesome, right? Like, that's how the red team is, right? Because, you know, all the other teams tend to hate red team because they just make more work for them. But a big part of this too, we were talking about like all my pen testers that I had. My pen testers were very good at this right here. Almost all pen testers out there, all the penetration testers that I've ever met, they do not like going to all the planning for 3 weeks beforehand, talking to the teams, getting the footprint, scoping down what they're allowed to do. What they want to do is sit up for 3 weeks straight from 12 o'clock till 6 a.m. when they're allowed their window, and they just want to hack on the system. That's what they love to do. This is the fun part. This is the part I don't want anybody ever seeing me doing, because I look like I don't know what I'm doing. And then when you're done, you've got to write out a report. So when you go to do stuff professionally, it becomes much less fun, right? You got to do all this planning, all of this scoping down. Hey, if you find some vulnerability on one of our SQL instances because you're able to bypass through, or you're allowed to get a payload out of an API, you're not allowed to sit there and pick at it like a little scab until it starts to really bleed. That's outside of the scope of this. And a lot of guys are sitting there late at night and they're like, I'm in. And then they have to back off and not do anything with it. They hate that. Can you loop over a list from command line? Yeah, sec 100. Can you put that into a for loop though? For your 100 there. Or was it this one? Yeah, can you make your system count to 100? Sec 100 would do that, yes. Let's go to here then. Can you loop over a list from the command line, or can you loop over a list from a file? All right, over here. Here's the types of hackers, but again, these terms, they're not really used in the industry much. But I will tell you, if you go and like sign up with ISC Squared and you get yourself like a CISSP or a CCSP, you do have to adhere to a set of code of principles that if you violate, you can lose your certification. So if you have like a CISSP, but you like play around on the internet all night and like publish a bunch of stuff about somebody who didn't give you permission, you probably are going to be losing your ISC Squared certification, just so you guys know. The most common people you're going to run into though out there are script kiddies. They don't know what they're doing, they're just running Metasploit. That's not strictly speaking any type of actual hacker, because they're not doing this. They're just simply running commands and shooting them off into the night and hoping something comes back, right? But I guess the question is are they not still dangerous? They're exactly dangerous. Let's do echo and... Yeah, that would work. Yeah, that would work. You might have to do a $sign in front of that, and I don't know if a test like that'll work. Do I think certified cybersecurity stuff from ISC Squared is worth doing? I think it is. I think the body of knowledge around it is really good. Expert T, I think that it's a valuable thing to understand. Like, any body of knowledge that's out there is useful to understand, I think. Do I think it'll make you better at this stuff? No. This stuff here, you just have to go and use your tools and figure them out. The best way to get good at this stuff is to go into some of the labs that are out there. But I need to tell you guys something. This is why I hate this term. Oh God, I'm gonna open up some things for people and probably piss some people off. But there's not enough people here for me to care. But like Hack the Box and like Try Hack Me, they are lab scenarios. They drop you into a lab, they walk you through them, and then you're done. And that's cool. I don't know why people can't just be cool with saying I'm gonna do lab scenarios. But this goes back to my everybody wants to be cool hacker man. Everybody wants to say they're hacking. If you are following a set of steps to get to a determined end goal, you are not hacking on anything. I don't care what anybody says. That's not what the term means. The term means you figure a system out by just hacking away at inputs to get valid outputs until you figure out how it works. That's what it means. Following labs are awesome. I do follow labs all the time. Like, I make you guys do labs with me. I have no problem with labs. I just don't call labs hacking because that's not what it is. All right, anyways. All right, I'm going to get off my thing. The rest... because I haven't taken... Yeah. Tani, I would say CCSP was really good too. CCSP is like a subset of CISP that just cares about the cloud. And I would tell you, if you passed your CISSP, it's not that much more study to go get your CCSP. So that's probably something that's valuable for you. All right, so anyways, there's those. This is what I was going to tell you. These are your methodologies for the Certified Ethical Hacker. That's where I get this from. Footprinting, scanning, enumeration, system hacking, escalation of privileges, covering tracks, and planting backdoors. This is a way to look at privilege escalation in a system right here. The other way to look at privilege escalation is you go back over here and you go to this MITRE framework. Because the MITRE framework is the one you're going to get asked nowadays. And you do not have to memorize it all, but it is a good idea to understand that it begins with reconnaissance. It begins well before you ever try to send over an Nmap or a ping or any of that kind of stuff. It begins with the reconnaissance of everything that you can find out about that system, right? And then, then you start to figure out what you're doing and, how you're going to go about looking at people's profiles online and that kind of stuff, right? So there's a lot of stuff there for you guys to do and play with. And in the MITRE ATT&CK framework, they show you how a lot of it's done. So I can come in here and I can say, okay, I want to go look at search open technical databases. Okay, so this talks about going and looking up, maybe somebody has their headers exposed on their Nginx. I think I have my headers exposed on my Nginx. Hold on real quick. Do I have that? Hold on. So here's Ranger's birthday. That's expired. But if I go here, and I go over here, this was bullshit from the other day. Curl-H against my location. Damn, my freaking internet's slow over there. The dash capital H? Where do I get header info? And capital H. Did I just get header info? I hear my dog Ranger downstairs. Oh, I don't want to pass the header. I want to get the header. Dash I. Look at that. I didn't know anything else about the server. Well, this is my server, but I didn't know anything else about this server until right there. I happen to know the Kubernetes side of things. But if any of you want to go hit that real quick from a Linux box, tell me what you can tell about that server right there. You can tell the exact version of Nginx I'm running. And you can go, so a lot of companies tune that out, but not all of them. I guarantee you not all the federal government sites do that. You're going to tell me across all the states and all the federal governments there's going to be people that turned off all their stuff? Guarantee there's not. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can go do. But again, I'm going to tell you, like, You know, I'm telling you not to go do anything illegal. I'm just showing you guys that there's ways to go get this information out there, right? And that technically doesn't look, what I just did doesn't look like an attack to anybody. If you just go and do that and spread those around, it doesn't look like an attack to anybody. But you're footprinting, you're finding out what's going on there. Now, Wusa, that's my point. Now you've got something to go, before you ever even do a single scan or a single Nginx attack or a single anything, you can go do all kinds of research. That's exactly what they showed right here. That's exactly what was going on here in this. That's the diamond intrusion. I sent that to you guys, right? The diamond model. Yeah, banner grabbing stuff about the system. And I just did that with curl, but you could do it with lib3, was it URL lib3 or response, not response, requests inside of your just a Python. You can just be scraping, go get some beautiful soup and grab all that shit. What's that? Is that? Oh, did we get to the end of the slideshow? Let's go all the way back up because it's been over an hour, so this thing was running the whole time. So we'll start over. But yeah, NC or Nmap. What was the last question? I don't know what the last question was, but let's see if we can. Will this thing start running? Yeah, it's running again. Okay, so you guys can. People who got here later can start going through the questions again if they want. But anyways, over here. Kali is pretty much the standard for like hacker toolkits, and Bento is very popular for forensics, and they're different uses typically. Kali is more of your red team type focus, and for people that want to explore other systems and test other systems and that kind of stuff. And then Bento tends to be, once we have a forensic copy of a server, or we throw like a forensic version of like a VMDK somewhere of some compromised system, we'll load it up in Bento and go look at what was going on. Look at, so what can happen is if you snapshot a Linux box inside of a VMware, you can actually load the VMDK up and you can go look at what were all the open ports that were open. What was the, if I do an LSOF against an open port, I can see the process and how it was called, and when that, I can go look at that file and see when that file was put on the server, and I can see when it executed and how it executed and what user called it. And now I can start to figure out how my user was compromised and when it got logged into and all of these things. And I can go forensically look at a system that's frozen in time with a tool like Bento, and it's free. Nmap will do that for us. I don't know, if the last question was how do you connect to another server, I would use NC typically. NC-VZ, the name of the server, and then the port. So if that's what the last, I don't know if that's what the last question was or not. All right, so here's some communities to get connected to. I'm not telling you to you know that these are bad. When I was saying earlier that it's not hacking, it's labs. But the name is what it is, so feel free to go to those. A great one for if you are in the GRC space. So if you tell me I'm in the GRC space and I need to get better at this stuff, there's two really good ones in SANS.org that I like. If you go to SANS.org, there are information security policies. So maybe your organization has no information security policies. These are all free for you to use. They tell you right on them you're allowed to use them. There you go. Oh, you guys were trying to do Nmap against it? Yeah, I mean, you could do whatever you want with that box. That box is pretty robust. And then the other SANS.org one that I really like is not a GRC thing. This is more of a procedural thing for your admin teams, and that one's right here. And Neto, hey, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by with the student. Yeah, interwebs, I was saying that just understand that these aren't hacking. They're doing labs. Yeah, and the Tsurugi or whatever is the other one that's similar to it. So look, I'm not shitting on them for what they're teaching you. I'm just saying understand that this is not what hacking is. Hacking is not going through a lab that somebody prepares for you and doing all the lab steps. That's not what hacking is. So then there's Kali, and then there's a security podcast list that I think is great. This is a little bit dated, but it's still got some really good podcasts on there. And I tell you guys, find somebody to listen to. Find something that's out there that works for you, right? There's a bunch of these. Some of them are older, but some of them are still running. And those are ones, I didn't really listen to podcasts. So the whole time that I studied for my CISSP, I only worked about a half a mile away from my work, so I didn't really have a commute. But if I had a commute, even nowadays, I would probably listen to podcasts about stuff. Stage versus unstage versus critical point to underline. Yeah. What I've seen, one thing that hacking labs don't teach you is how to leave the less stress possible. Yeah, Wusa, they're not going to do that. But a good place to learn that stuff and learn that functionality is over in your MITRE. MITRE will show you that because they're going to show you what people are doing around that. So watch, come down here and we move over a little bit, and it tends to be over here in lateral movement, discovery, and then collection. And do they have, hold on, impact? Yeah, defensive evasion right here. Here it is. Where you sit now, do you think an MBA or an MSA? So I have an MBA and a MISM, so it's Master of Business Administration and a Masters of Information Systems Management. The Masters of Information Systems Management has opened more doors for me because it's an engineering degree. The Business Administration got me in over at Lockheed Martin, but they didn't let me get my level 3 senior engineer until I had my degree in an engineering field, which was my Masters of Information Systems Management. That's actually technically an engineering degree. So of those, which one I think is more valuable? I think my MISM looks better. But I can tell you this, I don't think you need this stuff to get into the industry. Like, I don't think you need my my background in the academic side. And by the way, I think I told you guys, I just started my DBA yesterday, so my doctorate of business administration is now going. But that's not, like, that's such a small part of what this is. Like, I got into this field by being a network engineer, and then I just moved over into Linux. I had one class in college on Linux. In fact, I dare say, if you've watched me for more than 10 hours, and some of you have, and you've done any labs with me, and you've done all our labs on Killer Coda, you have more background in Linux than I did when I started. Everything else I learned in Linux, I learned in the wild. So, there's that. Yeah, oh, look, Cypher Enigma. Anything like that absolutely helps what I call being a positive differentiator. Like, if you have a resume and you go for a job and there's 10 people sitting there and they can only hire one of you, they're going to look at everybody and they're going to go, well, we've got 10 people. How are we going to cut them down to 5 so we can start the next round of interviews? And they're going to look and they're going to go, well, these 5 that we liked all of them. We liked all of them in our initial interview. But these 5 have bachelor's degrees, and they cut the other ones off. And it's terrible, right? It's a terrible thing, but it's true. They get you past HR. That's exactly true. I had when I worked, so I worked at AAA, which is CSAA, and I was their platform engineering lead. And then I went over to Best Western right before COVID started. And I'm over there, and I'm their Ansible architect, and I'm doing good, and everybody loves it, and I'm getting hired on eventually. And then COVID hits, and they let all like 680 something of their, I think it was like 686 of us contractors all go. And I didn't sit around and worry about it. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go find somewhere else to work, like. But it did suck. I mean, like, they liked me. I had, all the degrees and all the pedigree, and my manager really liked me, but they lost all their contractors. So that is what it is, I didn't have any Linux classes for my computer engineering degree, although I didn't complete it. There was no Linux, none. Yeah, Neto, that's a sad thing, and I don't say it's sad that you didn't graduate. I'm saying it's sad that, like, they didn't show you what I really consider to be, like, the backbone of all computer science. Like, if you can do Linux, you can go play in any of these spaces, and then you can come back to Linux and go play in another space, and I think it's really useful. DMI decode is super, super useful. What, do they have that up here somewhere? They got all kinds of good stuff here, guys, and you can go play. You could go spend a lot of time in MITRE, and if you can talk this stuff, it's very useful for you in getting into a security role. Understanding how people attack and understanding what the end game of your defensive or offensive security is super useful. All right, my lab's done there, but okay. So risk management. This is important. So we talked earlier about how much RAM we have. FreeH is one of my favorites. Yep. Risk management is part of GRC, right? Governance, risk, and what's the last one? Compliance, right? So risk management, guys, I got like this thing on the outside of my nose that I keep seeing here. So, all right, risk management. How does risk management work, and how does it work with IT? Well, the IT risk management process looks like this: identify your assets, identify the threats based on those assets, assess your vulnerabilities, your actual vulnerabilities, then assess those risks, and then mitigate the risks. And I think if we go back over here real quick, nope, go back to the questions we were doing. Right, wait, where was it? Oh, we talked about risk. What are the things you can do to risk? Oh, and hey, thanks for the subscription, Interwebs Creative. Hopefully this stuff's useful. If you guys haven't joined our Discord is always free, and you guys are always welcome to hang out down there. Focus, yeah, I'm 29 now. There's resources out there, but not enough for an actual college degree. Yeah, Colchis, the thing that I tell you guys to do, and I'm really gonna start hammering this down in the Discord soon. For December, right? We're coming up on December. If people don't have a plan for a certification by the end of December, I'm probably gonna hammer it like this whole next couple weeks, and I'm gonna be like, you are doing this with me, and we will go get free certs. So I don't want to call you out, but just if this helps out, Colchis, let me know. But do you have any of the certs that we've talked about down there? Have you went and done like the API designer that's free, or the API? Have you guys seen that? Hold on, let me pull this up for people, because I sometimes forget that not everybody's seen this. So let's say you just wanted to start with API Academy. Whoops, API Academy. This is a free, 100% free training right here. It takes you about 6 hours per, let's say, so 18 hours. You'll get an API designer cert. You'll watch some videos. They'll talk you through it. Then you'll take a test at the end. We have a study guide on our Discord. If you go to our Discord and you search for this in our Discord. What do we call it? Hold on. I'll show you exactly what to search. We have a study guide one of our guys put together for it. Search for I'll tell you what to search for. Hold on. API. Their search function is really, really bad on here. But some of the guys went and got it. Hold on. No. Oh yeah, look up Pathfinder. So search, if you're in our thing, do Pathfinder. Right? And here's the Pathfinder guide that one of our guys put together. It's a study guide that'll help you as you go through it, but also you can hit Control F in it when you're taking the tests, and all their stuff is there. It's not like, it doesn't give you any of the answers. It just gives you the study material to search through that will help you in the test. It'll help you a lot, and I want you to then go and do that. And then look, if you go spend some time here, probably about 4 to 6 hours watching the video. The videos are great. Read their stuff. You can go get these 3 certifications, and if you haven't seen them, this is what I'll just run it real quick. I think it's gonna make me download it. This is what the certifications look like. You can go put them up on your LinkedIn. It's not a cheat sheet, guys. It's very much the same things that they show you. It's all the same stuff that they show you. It's just searchable. So in the test, if it says like media types, you can find where media is mentioned, and then you can look. But I'm going to tell you, their test is directly off of the stuff, so it's pretty easy. So, but what I'm telling you to do is go learn some stuff. Because now, if you understand the API stuff, you say, well, Scott, what the hell's an API got to do with, like, I want to be in security? Every single tool that you could possibly integrate to any single workflow in any company, any tool that's out there that's worth its chops, has an API with it. Well, somebody mentioned Tenable Security earlier. Tenable Security API. Tenable Security Center. So you got Security Center internally. Here's their API. Look at this. This is their whole API system. It's a REST API based on standards. You go get a token. You throw that token into a Insomnia, and then you run Insomnia on your system, and you, boom. There you go. You got Insomnia up. You're running queries and pulling data, and then you're turning that into part of a workflow, and that workflow is then causing you to not have to go ask the security team anymore for the results, because you pull the results directly from their tool. You don't even have to bug people and get emails anymore. And CSVs are right out because now you're pulling the stuff directly. Yeah, this Colchis. This is one of the simplest ones you can do. And I'm going to really focus. I'm going to make people go do this one. I'm not going to make anybody do anything. I'm just going to tell you, like, guys, there's a saying, right? And Sending said this the other day in Discord. If nothing changes, nothing changes. If you don't, like, if you tell me I want to go, like, get into this field, I'm going to tell you, let's do it. But I can't do it for you, right? Like, I could literally, and by the way, I was an infantry guy, so we used to do this to each other. I can literally hold you down, and I am a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, so I can say that to 99.9% of the population. And I can pour water on you, and I can waterboard you. I know how to do it. We used to do it to each other. Infantry guys do dumb shit like that all the time. I cannot make you go learn something, though. Did you know that? That's why torture is so ineffective against people, because you can't make anybody learn anything. So I'm going to tell you guys, if you want to do it, let's do it, but I can't make anybody do it, right? This is true of all things. Like, I can't even make my college students do stuff, and they're paying me a bunch of money. So, all I can do is show you guys this stuff. But API Academy, excellent. Another one, if you just say, hey, Scott, I can't do the API stuff. I don't want to do it. But I do want to learn to be a better engineer, and I know that this isn't a Linux. What I'm about to show you is not a Linux thing. Yeah, I've been doing it for 20 years, interwebs. So I'm pretty okay at it. I'm the most okayest black belt I know. So, yeah, so if you already use those Colchis, boom, that's going to really, I don't want to say it's going to accelerate anything for you, but it's going to codify that you've done these things. It's going to be one more positive differentiator on your resume. And when you put in for that, you know, maybe you're like, it's a long shot, it's a third shift, you know, it's a knock position, I don't think I'm going to get it. But they see that and they're like, hey, this guy went and did a cert. This guy went and worked through some stuff. That's one. Another one that I've been showing you guys is the White Belt Six Sigma. This is completely free as well. The exam cost for this is free. I've never taken this, but I think I'm going to make my students take it with me for college. So I'm going to put together a little training thing and make you guys do it with me. All the training is online for free. Self-study training is all here free. But again, it's one of these things. I can't make you guys do anything. Yeah. So yeah, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is kind of what most people call MMA. Although I'll tell you guys, I mostly just wrestle with the young MMA guys, and then they just thank me when we're done. So I don't do any of that stuff anymore. I'm too old for all that stuff. But I still wrestle with them all. I just don't do the MMA part. I don't do the punching part of it as much. I'll do it on the ground. I'll tell the guys they can hit me if they want, but it doesn't really work out too well. I've been grappling too long for a lot of that stuff to matter. But okay, Six Sigma. Look, here's all this stuff you can train through and stuff. So all their training's out there free, and they even tell you the reason they do that is to keep the training providers honest. I really like this. They say if you're going to go spend like $5,000 or $10,000 for a week-long training, they better add something to it, because all the stuff here is free. So, like, if I was going to tell you, oh, I'm going to charge you guys in December for this and this, I better add a lot of shit to that. I'm not going to charge you guys. If you guys want to come do it, let's do it. But this is another way to do engineering, and this may not tune you directly towards Linux, but it's engineering. It's process improvement. It's DPMO, defects per million opportunities for errors, and these kind of things. And it'll teach you the basics of statistical process management. It'll teach you all the basics. And then you can at least go put that, hey, I'm a White Belt Six Sigma certified person. And then one of the managers was like, oh yeah, I did Green Belt one time long ago. I'll hire this guy on my team because at least he did something. That happens all the time. If you guys don't think that, like, I mean, go look at like Ivy League schools and how often people get hired into like law firms. People love when somebody has the same ring on their finger as they do from whatever organization. I watched that happen with some Air Force Academy guys that I knew when I worked at Lockheed. But all right, anyway, so those are things to study. We'll be working on those as we go. Where else were we at? Oh, let's do our risk stuff. So we were talking about identify assets. You got to know all your assets. You can't do risk management without knowing all your stuff. Otherwise, the risk is 100% because you don't understand anything. Identify our threats. Assess the vulnerabilities in respect to those threats. Assess our risks, and then do what we're going to do to the risks, which can be mitigate, sell, transfer, accept. There's a bunch of things we can do to risk, okay? And then here's how we calculate things. There's two types of analysis. And I used to ask you guys this, what you can't see in the top corner there is calculated risk. Put it like this so you guys can see this better. Oh, my whole screen froze up. What's going on here? Give me a second here, guys. There we go. I'm back. I don't know if you guys lost me, but I completely froze there for a second. Let's pull this over. I want to pull this over till it's right about there so you guys can see it all. Thanks for the great resource. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Hey, Colchis, you're always welcome. You're always down in Discord hanging out, talking. You know, that's what we do. Um, Anybody that wants to stick around, quantitative and qualitative analysis. The only difference between them, well, there's a few differences between them, but quantitative deals with numbers, qualitative deals with weights. So that's the difference. Quantitative can be done by anybody. I can take the most junior engineer on my team and go tell them to go gather that data from different teams. And they can go do it. And as long as they're getting good data, that's good. Qualitative analysis requires an expert of some type to subjectively say it's low, medium, or high, based on whatever criteria that they understand as an expert. So quantitative analysis is objective because it's fact, it's numbers. And qualitative is that. So in some ways, qualitative is better than quantitative in that anybody can do it. Quantitative, quantitative anybody can do. Qualitative requires expertise, but most of the time you're going to end up using both. You're probably going to find that both need to be done. You found the functional analyst in the room, right? Yeah. So you got to kind of know how both of these work for these things. Hey, thanks for the follow. Hopefully this stuff's useful for you. Smack a lick. Hopefully this stuff's useful. And then, so after we calculate the types of risks and we talk about risk, cost, probability, if you start to tell me, hey, Scott, I want to go for my CISSP, there's some other terms I have to throw at you here. There is the average loss expectancy, the ALE. There is the annual rate of occurrence. So if or the average loss expectancy. So if you have a loss of one of these things that happens, what does it cost? And then you've got your annual rate of occurrence. And if your annual rate of occurrence is 6, let's just make it 12 so it's easy. And then your average loss expectancy is $10,000 per, then those 12 occurrences per year that are expected, your cost per year of carrying that risk is at least $120,000 because it's the 10,000 per occurrence times the 12 occurrences, right? And this is what you do. Oh, we're on ads, Wusaw? All right. We'll give a second for ads. I don't mind giving a second for ads. Let me quick break real quick. I'm going to go quick break. And I'm going to pull up a little thing that says that I'm on break. A little hourglass here. And I will wait 5 minutes to come back, but I'm going to go and grab some water. I will be right back. I don't have to go far for my water. It's right here in my office. But grab some water. Ads are done? Okay. I didn't realize it was ads, and now they're done. I'll be right back. All right, where are we at here? Ads are done. All right, I'll give it a second. I'll give the full time in case anybody walked away for a second. Hold on a second here. All right. Give a few seconds here for that to go. Drink some water here for me. I can pop back up on stream here. And what we're going to do, we'll finish this up. We'll talk through types of risks and different things that are out there. You're going to see that a lot of people are the risks. People are the problems. And then we'll go through here. 145 here, going to bed. Yeah, deprecated drain. Hopefully this stuff is useful to you. I was going to call you deprecated. All right, so we'll get into this here in a second. I'm gonna give people another couple minutes because maybe somebody walked away or something, and give you guys a second to show up. But it is Friday, and normally I'd be off here by this time because I gotta hang out and do date night. But the wife went to see a movie with her friends, so she's gonna be back in about an hour and a half, 2 hours, so I can talk for a little bit longer here. I don't have anybody doing my Discord for me, so there's Discord if anybody wants to hop in there. You guys are always welcome to talk shop with the other engineers, and just talking with people that are of similar types of mindsets, right? Talk to people that are trying to better themselves, people are working on getting further in their careers or getting into this career, and it's all levels down there, right? So yeah, I'll give it another minute here and then we'll go on. And Technique Unknown, how's it going? We are just going through some security stuff right now, and there's all the Linux questions. The Linux questions are always running for you guys now. If you guys want to try to do some of those, you can always hop into our labs. Any of our labs are available, and the labs are free on Killer Coda. And then we do have a book. The book's the only thing that I have to charge for because I put it on LeanPub, so I got to charge something for it. So let's go to the Hourglass. The only thing the book adds is if you like to write stuff down, if you need more hard, thought activities around the labs, you can use it for that. It's on the same labs that are free from Killer Coda. It's just it's more stuff to think about. All right, let's get this out of the way here. So security risks, there's vulnerabilities. That's a weakness in a system, process, or architecture that can lead to compromise. Vulnerabilities are an inherent weakness. They are not something that's being exploited. They're not even something that's exposed. They're just a vulnerability, right? An exploit is the act of taking advantage of that vulnerability. So if I know that you use an application load balancer, maybe I just know this about AWS. I know that you're using an application load balancer. I just happen to do a little digging and find out that you have 7 EC2 instances behind it. And I find out that the round robin nature of your connections, if I can get 100 connections open to your load balancer from one system, then I can cause that 101st connection to not land somewhere, and it'll respond to me with some code that gives more information than the application should have given. Maybe I figure that out, right? These are things that happen, right? The vulnerability or the weakness of the system is that somebody programmed in too much information out in a response code of your API. That's a vulnerability. The exploit is figuring out that there's, once I get that 101st connection that doesn't land somewhere, that's when I get that message kicked back from the load balancer, right? Something like that. It could be something silly like that. A zero-day exploit is an exploit that hasn't really become publicly available yet. Publicly well known, there's a difference between a 0 day and an exploit in that a 0 day is before anybody knows about it, and then as of December, it was December 8th, I believe, of 2021, maybe December 9th, when we found out about Log4j. When it hit, it was a 0 day. It was just an exploit until we got the remediation from our different vendors and our people patched in their remediations, and then we removed it, right? But it wasn't a vulnerability. It wasn't a vulnerability if you had layers in place that stopped it from being exploited. Like when that first came out, we were immediately hit at AAA. We were immediately hit, but it was all hitting our web firewall. Our web application firewall blocked every one of them. We were never compromised with Log4j, but we were being attacked before the company had even responded to it, which happens a lot with zero day. That happens. So dumb question: how would you rate something like a 4090 12 volt connector as a point of failure? They're utterly shit. The bed here, and it feels like a dumb problem. So yeah, Cypher. One of the bad things about power and power discs, boards, anything hardware related, we always assume that those are going to fail, right? Those have to fail. So Cypher, what happens a lot of times in government systems? Let me show you guys something real quick. It'll take me a second to explain this, but let me pull this up. Let's go five nines, which is going to take us to high availability. So real quick here for you guys, Cypher. This, don't worry, I'm going somewhere, and I'm not going to go like too deep into it. I'm just going to show you one thing. We know that systems are going to fail. Wait, we have to assume. Oh, we have to. No, we have to assume that like hardware is going to fail. We have to. So if you told me, Scott, I need to assure some type of high availability of these two system or this system, I would tell you we can't make that assumption. We can't make that assurance in hardware. I can't. I have to do it in software and networking typically. So where I was going with this is just real quick to show you, a 99.5% system is typically this is typically the best right here that I think I could get you out of a server right here. If you tell me it's a physical server sitting there, it's got a power, it's got dual power coming from an A and a B side in a data center. Well that Cypher, or there's other things we can do. If it's a Linux system, then we could have something like Heartbeat, and we could have a virtual IP. So one server's on 192.168.11. I'm not going to say that again. I'm just going to say 11 and 12. Those are your two servers. And then they hold a virtual IP up here of 13, right? 192.168.11.13. And this one, the 11 box, holds that VIP over here, the virtual IP, and all traffic comes to it. If he ever dies, if 12 ever can't see 11, he takes the VIP. He starts listening to 13, and traffic comes to him. Now, I just want you guys to real quick, a little bit of math real quick. If you have a 99.5% system and a parallel 99.5% system, what is the probability of both of them being down at the same time? In a year, it's 1.83 days and 1.83 days. It's low. It's real low. We calculate it real quick if we want, but I'm just telling you it's low, right? So now what if I add a third system? And by the way, now we start to get into, man, we could talk real deep on this, but there's this concept that I really love. It's funny. It's so this node stops responding, 11 stops responding, 12 is still responding. So it takes the VIP for 13, but then it needs to make sure that 11 is down. And does it look like I got a little gun pointed over there? There's a concept we call stone it, shoot the other node in the head. We hit the power. This guy has an IPMI call to kill his power and turn him off for real. So he can't respond anymore, even if he was just not talking. Streaming on YouTube. Yeah, Robodom, we should be. I have like, nobody's talked over there, but 3 or 4 people have said they were viewing. Like I got like some follows and stuff. 95% is 18 days down a year. That's pretty bad. 95% is real bad. If you were down 18 days a year on any server, you'd probably that would be a shit show. But I can tell you right now, on a physical box, you are probably not going to give me on any physical box anything better than this ever. I don't care what you put in that box. That box is probably going to take some downtime. And this is unplanned outages, by the way, because if you're just patching a server and you move it out of rotation, that does not count towards your downtime. Never does. The chat function on YouTube is funky. Yeah, Robodom, if you're over there, let's see, I did a Hiya test, but nobody's talked over there, so I don't know. IBM mainframe promises like 5 nines, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so you can go look at what that means. If they promise that that's the only downtime, they probably have some major redundancies in there. But having worked on IBM mainframe, some of their older stuff, I don't remember it being that high. But there may be redundancies with other systems that are pretending to be one system, and then there's ways to, again, like I said, inside of hardware, make this more. But anyways, I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. Security risks, people risks. People are the most common types of things that you're gonna to come up with. What's the question? Warning: dev disk by label. Fedora does not exist. Dev root does not exist. So, I'm not sure exactly what that is with the push for maintenance thing. Oh, I mean that kind of looks like you're dropped into a root shell or something. David, if you're seeing that, you're being dropped into typically what's called like a rescue mode. And what you probably have to do, so if that disk doesn't exist, you probably have to drop into that maintenance mode and then maybe go look at either, sometimes you have to do a like a Tune2FS and clean up that disk according to like it's got a bunch of these little, I forget what they're called, but they're like block devices on it that'll help to rebuild the data. Or you might have to go in, if it's dropping you down into Grub, and just pick the right disk to boot from. That could be something like that. But yeah, David, what it looks like you're sending there looks like you're being dropped into like a rescue mode. And then what I would do is I would go look at my Fedora version and maybe go throw Fedora Live 39. Also, Fedora Live, it's probably trying to boot to something that isn't there anymore. So you may want to go look if it's not somewhere else. Hey, there it's going, Salty. Thanks for the Prime. You guys can use your Prime anywhere. You use it here. It always feels kind of good. So, stream freezes for 30 minutes on Twitch. I'm stuck for like 5-minute ad break. Yeah, School Crusher. That's no good. Yeah, Salty, I appreciate that. But by the way, remember to refresh your browser so it doesn't drop you into ads. All right, people risks. There's an old saying, if you make something idiot-proof, they'll make a better idiot. And I'm not telling you to call your users idiots. I'm just saying it's real easy to be a cynical engineer. It's real easy to be cynical as an engineer. Here's the risks that really happen to our users, right? This happens often. Phishing. We just had a phishing attempt at one of my contracts, one of the places that I contract through my company that I work for. And within the IT department, these are the people that know, we had like a 40% click-through rate on phishing. Guys, that's bad. That's bad. It was not good. And they just released the findings, and it's like, that's bad, guys. Baiting, dropping that stuff, like you guys probably saw, like, was it Mr. Robot, where they just dropped the stuff? Yeah, it was like 40% Robodom. I don't even want to tell you what organization that was with. But I will tell you one from years ago, when I first got out of the Army in 03, started working at the Peoria Unified School District, and I read this in 04. There was an article that came out in 04, and it was the IRS did this. The IRS did a phishing scam, and this is what they did. They called their IRS agents. They called their IRS agents all over. These are the IRS agents. This was in 04. They called them up and said, hey, we're from the help desk. We need your password. And 50% of the time, the IRS agents gave it to them. Now, this was in 04, so people didn't know as well as they did now. I could guarantee that if I called all 46 people watching right now and said, I need your password, every one of you would go like this and just flip me off and hang up, right? There's not a single one of you that would do it. But hold on. In 2004, the IRS was ecstatic. Those numbers were great. And can I tell you why? The year before when they did it, before they did their training, it was 90% of their people. 90% of their people gave, and in the IRS, in 03, gave their password to their user account on their IRS system, in the government, in the federal government, their account. This was this big famous thing. You could probably still go look it up. But it was in 04 when the study came out. They were super ecstatic that it was only 50% because the year before it was 90%, and they had trained so that they dropped the numbers 40%. And I'm like, that's still pretty bad. That's like me being happy that, like, you know, a car drove in through the front of my house, and I'm just happy that it didn't hit my sprinklers. You know, it could be worse. Could have hit my sprinklers. I'd be like, no, it's still really bad. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, I will not hold. Yeah. All right. Quid pro quo is a gift for a free service, exchange for something. They're always tracking on that stuff. And then tailgating. Tailgating is one of the worst. You have to make sure that people are accessing. And I actually think a lot of people think I'm a jerk for this, because like if I'm walking in and there's a like if I have to badge in and there's a door or something and you're walking right behind me and I know you, I still close the door on you. And you might say, really? Yeah, if I didn't go to lunch with you or something, I do not hold the door for you. You say, really? I say, yeah. Do you guys know that most of that stuff happens within the time that somebody probably got let go from an organization? So you see somebody that you know, but you haven't gotten the email yet because you haven't been around your desk to tell you that they couldn't come back in, and they're coming in to, I'm not even gonna say it on stream, but to do something malicious in the office that results in a bad, a bad problem or something. Right? That's all I'm gonna say about that. But they're coming in for a bad reason. You don't want to hold the door open for them. Just close it. That's probably not a good thing if they are coming in for one of those reasons. But anyways, my point is, you don't let people tailgate even if you know them, because you may not have gotten the email yet that they've been let go, and that happens in an organization. It does. It's surprisingly big. All right, so people risks. How do we minimize people risks? Well, we do stuff like this. We do background checks for people. We look for certain things. Did you know one of the things that they look for in a background check is if you ever had a long period of homelessness? They look for that. That's the main thing, by the way, in case you've never been cleared. If you've never had a security clearance, go scrub through your life. That's an experience. Go do that if you haven't. They go look at all the places you lived, all the people you work for, and they go talk to all your neighbors. For a top secret clearance, they go talk to every neighbor of yours that you've had that they can find. Just ask stuff about you. They might not even remember you. They'll be like, were they there? Was there a lot of yelling? They'll ask them whatever they want. But they will do that kind of stuff. My last place of employment did a free iPad thing. That was like 30% of the people clicked on the link, including members of the IT department. Yeah, Neto. It's huge. You should always practice the principle of least privilege. This is real big in like providing access to like our cloud accounts and stuff. We don't want to give you full admin. It's easy to give everybody full admin, but that's not the right answer. It's in the Linux world, I never give anybody that's not on the Linux team root. And if somebody wants that, I will call a meeting. I normally don't call meetings, but that's how important this is, because I refuse to give that up without a fight. Like I want the management involved, and I want them to defend why it shouldn't just be a pseudo to a certain set of rules. Because and I can give you a good example of that if you want to know like why I hold root so close to me. It's not because I'm a jerk. I mean, I'm a jerk, but that's not why I want to hold root so close. I want to hold root close because people that are not administrators don't care about the system. They will not clean up after themselves. So I'll give you an example. We used to have a system. This was a long time ago at AAA. And what this system did a very simple thing. It ran everything. It was Hadoop. It was Hadoop for our system. It was big MapReduce system, right? Big Hadoop system. And what happened was it was all called big data. It was like BDL servers with some nomenclature for the numbers after them. So they were BDLs. Big Data Linux is what BDL stood for. And BDL with some number in this. And I will never forget this server name. It was the production nomenclature, BDL 183. I'll always remember this one. Yeah, pretty sure it's 183. Yeah. Anyways, what happened was somebody, big DE, yeah. Big Data Linux, guys. That's all I'm saying. What they did was they got root. I don't know how they got it, and I think it was because it had been a non-prod system that became the production system, and this was a mess. But just real quick, they took one of the servers, and somebody had gotten root again, and he said, "I know what I'm doing. I have root now, and I'm a developer. I'm not telling you guys developers can't be smart enough to run Linux servers. They can. I'm just telling you that they don't maintain the fleet of Linux servers, so they don't give a shit about them. I'm going to prove it to you. They took this server, Big Data Linux 183, and they made it into a repository because they found something on like DigitalOcean on how to turn your Linux server into a repository. Then they downloaded a bunch of data that they needed, a bunch of RPMs and packages, and they said, look, I'm super clever. I can go to all the other Big Data Linux servers, point them to that repository. So now in Etsy, yum.repos.d, there's a repository built. You guys already see where this is going? And they all point to 183. And then they said, I'm a good steward of my environment. When I'm not running this repository for security reasons, I'll turn off Big Data Linux 183, whatever the nomenclature was for the being a prod server, right? I'm not telling you the whole name. I'll turn it off. and then it'll be good. And then when we would come through and start patching Linux servers, none of those servers would patch because they had a broken repository. So the easiest solution to that is not give them root. Don't give them permission to do that, because that's bullshit. That's a bullshit permission for somebody to have, right? Because they're not going to clean it up. They don't understand what they don't even understand, because DigitalOcean didn't tell them, if you leave this off, none of the other servers will patch, because they're going to check for metadata from that repository, see that they can't get it, and break. So our solution to that, we had to, again, every time you fix a user process, they'll make a better user, or they'll, you make it idiot proof, they'll make a better idiot. We would go in as part of our patching process and our automated, this was scripting before it was Ansible. We would go in and we would copy everything out of that directory and move it and put in only our repositories that were approved for the organization. We would patch all of our servers up, bring them up, and then we would move that crap back in. They could have their broken ass servers, but we weren't going to fight. We weren't going to whatever. We made it as clean an environment as we could. And that worked for us just fine until I was able to wrangle. I never got permissions away from them in those systems. They were always getting them back. In fact, one of them changed the root password one time, and there was like this big critical outage with it, and I said, I can't fix it. They took all the stuff. They took over the box. They kicked us out of root, and they took away our keys. I'm not going to fix the server. I refuse to do it. And then they had to, I don't remember what they did, but that server never came back up until that engineer was gotten a hold of on vacation or whatever, and he's like wondering why they're calling him, and it's like, because you're the one who you said I'm going to be the only administrator on this box. That's what we call shadow IT. That's real bad in an organization, guys. Well, it's real bad because now I can't maintain it with all of my automated processes that make everything adhere to whatever compliance we need to, right? All right, checks and balances on employee behavior, such as scheduled access. Mandatory vacations find a lot of fraud in an organization, and job rotation, so you move people around. This is not just IT. This is like HR type stuff. And I'll tell you guys a story here in a second about this. But you make sure that you're doing scheduled access, so people can't log in after 5 o'clock if they don't need to some like HR service. Mandatory vacations. You make somebody take at least X amount of time a year off, because then if they were running something manually or they didn't document something, it's going to be found by other people trying to run payroll or trying to do whatever. So you force these kind of things to make sure that that's not happening. Because if that's happening and that person's that, you're in this, yeah, I'm in this picture and I don't like it. Have you guys seen those complaint forms? And then job rotations. Make sure people don't have too much power. I'll tell you guys a little story. There's a little background here that doesn't matter. But my wife's best friend is the daughter, she's one of the 10 daughters, daughter and sons, of the guy who started Swift Trucking. So Swift Trucking was started by a guy named Jerry Moyes, very wealthy guy out here in Arizona. He's a billionaire, and his wife and they couldn't have kids, so they adopted 10 kids. And the oldest of those 10 is my wife's best friend. In case you guys had never heard me say that. That has nothing to do with the story, except the story deals with Swift. And I learned this through another friend of mine that worked for them. Unrelated, in fact. But anyways, my point is my wife knows them very well. In fact, our wedding was in their backyard. So they're good friends of hers, and that was a very, very nice place that we held our wedding. But anyways, because if you didn't know, Swift is a huge trucking company, and that man is a multi-billionaire. So it was pretty good little wedding we had. But anyways, over here, back to this. I'm going to tell you about some fraud that happened there, and I'm going to tell you how it happened and how scheduled access, mandatory vacations specifically, and job rotations, and the idea that you only give people permissions they should have, and separation of job duties, could have caused this to not happen. So there was a guy over there in their IT department, and he had the permissions to pay out invoices to companies that Swift owed money to. So he could say, hey, yeah, this company came in and did this work for us. We owe them $200,000, and he could pay the invoices. He had that authority. Something happened over his time working there. He was there a long time, over 10 years. Something happened where he got the permission to add vendors to that as well. So what he did was, he said, well, I do this work, but I also kind of have this side business. I'm going to put my side business on there and bill to the company when I do work on the side for us, and then I'm going to authorize the payments myself. and he authorized himself somewhere around, it was somewhere between $600,000 and $800,000 over the course of the years that he worked there. And by the way, that's not strictly speaking illegal what he did there. But to keep that from happening, it would be better to not give those two duties to people, to the same type of duties. The guy who can pay things and the guy who can add people to be paid. Now hold on, I'm going to tell you guys why he got in trouble and why he went to prison. He couldn't prove that he had done that work, so that was one thing. But the way he got caught is like the silliest way I think I've ever heard. He would have never been caught if he hadn't. He was making a modest salary of 80 to 100K. He was doing all right. But one day he had like 130,000 in student loans, and he was like, "I'm just going to pay that off." So he paid his student loans off one day, 130,000 in student loans. He just paid them off, and the IRS came knocking and said, "Where'd you get that money from? You've been making 80 to 100,000 for the last 10 years. We don't think you should have that money. Why don't you prove where you got it?" It was the IRS that caught this guy, and he goes, "Well, I got it from this thing," and they're like, "Well, you've been paying taxes on that?" And he goes. And then they go back and they trace it back and start asking it Swift, and they're like, "No, he shouldn't have done that." And that's where it became an embezzling case. Was he was doing that and he wasn't paying taxes on it. The government will always, yeah, the government always. There are two things that are always guaranteed: government and taxes, right? Anyways, so yeah, that happened to that guy. Data loss prevention. How do we keep data from exfiltrating out of our network, and how do we keep stuff from being pulled out? There's some interesting things there that we can do. All right, then there's technology risks. So people risks are big. People risks are going to get you a lot more than anything else. In fact, some people say people risks account for 90% of internal vulnerabilities. I don't know that that's not just an anecdote, but people are going to people. I always say there's two types of problems in a system. There's misconfigured systems and there's misconfigured users. Those are your two security problems. Misconfigured systems and misconfigured users. That's it. Technology risks. There's spoofing attacks. People can impersonate things. They can impersonate Macs that they see on an open communication over an unencrypted Wi-Fi. They can spoof IP addresses if they know what an internal IP addressing scheme you've got is. And they can do denial of services. And there's a whole bunch of different types of denial services. If you want to know the archetypes, though, right? Like if you don't want to just memorize a bunch of crap, the archetype is the way I should say it. AWS DDoS. They've got a really good document on this. And I always show this to you guys. And here's the PDF. I'll link the PDF here in a second. But before I do, I want to tell you the first right here, all the way to page 6 has nothing to do with AWS. Everything here is just, and I really like this, it's where the attacks are coming from and how they're formed. So this is a really good thing on resiliency and DDoS, but it has nothing to do with AWS until you get to mitigation on page 6. So the reason I bring that up is because if you just like, "Scott, I've never heard anything of DDoS," or I hear people talk about it and I want to sound cool and know about it, there you go. Go read those 6 pages. Then the mitigation is where it gets to be AWS specific. And then I'll tell you, this is something you need to know if you're going to get like your AWS security specialty or one of those other special ones. Myself or Fisherman, who I tagged Fisherman earlier, I did a shout out for him. We can help you if you want to go get resources around getting those other things and know how that stuff works. All right. Technology risks, there's a bunch of other things. People can do all kinds of things to your system. Some things they need to already be internal for that to work. And then some things they need to do things from anywhere. I've shown you guys DAuth attacks. I can log into that. But we could do DAuth attacks with I got a little Raspberry Pi sitting back here. Raspberry Pis look like this if you've never seen one. But I've got a little one sitting behind me here that's got Kali on it. And I'm hardwired into it so that I can use the wireless to do whatever I want. And I use it sometimes to DAuth things. And if you had like a neighbor that you didn't like or something, and you wanted to cause problems, you could just set it to just sit there and keep DAuthing his system, and you'll cause him all kinds of problems. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you that that's a thing that could happen, right? All right. malware risks. There's all kinds of malware stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on in here, guys. We're not going to go through all of them. How do we mitigate risks? We do defense in depth, and I talk about this in some of our other stuff, right? WPA3 is safe from that. I don't know if WPA3 is safe from DAuth. I know I do it in WPA2. I haven't tried it in WPA3. Oh, and then we've got our intrusion analysis. So I was talking about this earlier, like the diamond intrusion model. Adversary and the victim is called the social political access, and capability versus infrastructure is called the technology access. And then we've got this little breakdown of the attack on the Death Star. When the Death Star happened and that destruction, what were the capabilities and the infrastructure and the adversary and the victim, and what was the motive and what was the technical way that things happened, right? So I'll let you guys look at all that stuff. And then there's questions. That's my email if you need to get a hold of me. I don't normally put that stuff out there. You guys can get me on Discord if you want, typically. All right. We talked about all these things. What's the CVSS score? Did you guys know that you can go pull all the CVSS scores by an API? Super easy to get that if you wanted. And then down here, this is one that I was asking. I didn't ask my interns this, but I asked some of my pen testers. People were coming in to do pen testing. And when I was interviewing them, I would ask them about, so, if you want to know how to compromise systems, you might want to know, it's sometimes useful. So one of the questions I would ask if they were doing all the other ones, right, I'd say, well, what might you do to harden one of those systems? And I just see what they knew. Like, okay, yeah, you update the software. Because typically, the ISO that you're going to download for a version of something is old. Robodom, I don't normally yell at my interns. I at least think of interns as people. I do yell at my students, though. But I don't think of them as people. So, that's terrible. Remove unused software. Don't have things open that don't need to be there. Turn on firewalls. That keeps mistakes from happening. That kind of stuff. Change your default usernames and passwords. Change those things, right? By the way, Robodom, you could be answering those Linux questions that are popping up too if you want. I have those Linux questions just constantly going. So if anybody wants to answer those, they can, right? Disable root login. And also change all the default username and passwords. But guys, did you know that that's one of the PCI DSS standards? That's one of the things you have to do for PCI DSS compliance. And they just released version 4 the middle of this year. I think June is when it went live. In the Discord, Robodom, they're right up there in the top right. Don't you see them right above me? You should see them right above me. Disable password login. Keys or certs only. That's a good one. Only allow things to come in. Yeah, Robodom, those are constantly running, in case you didn't notice them. It's your first day. All right, anyway, so there's that. What else we were looking at? We were looking at HIPAA. Talked about that a little bit. We were talking about Saitama, and I'm a guy who just does this for fun, right? This doesn't really do anything for me. And then we're talking about different memes and GIFs to grab. I can answer that for money. I need that one. And then the what is this? Those are so funny to me, guys. Again, I shouldn't be so amused by simple things, but I really am. All right, what else do we got? We got all those things running. I was going to talk a little bit about virtualization, so we can break out some virtualization talk if you guys want to talk about this a little bit. And then maybe I'll take a little bit of a break and get off of here, but I might be on Discord for a little bit too. Just kind of hanging out down there. But like, what's virtualization? How does it work? What are the different hypervisor types? What are the different things that we kind of see in the systems world around it? There's our Discord. Robodom just posted up our Discord, so you guys are welcome to hang out down there. And what else? What else do we got? I don't know. I only got one person talking on YouTube, so that's good. Don't really have much going out on Discord. That's fine. Robodom, it's going good. I've been doing some posting. I got to post basically not every day, but I post pretty much every day because I enjoy it. and I have to post for my normal college every day, where I'm a teacher. So I started telling my wife that, like, um, I said I'm going to respond. I'm going to refer to my teaching as teaching at the college, because I used to always just say, "Oh, at the college," and she knew I was talking about like college stuff. But now I have to say teaching for my teaching college, and then I'm going to tell her college for my college, and then like where I'm going to college, and then what's funny, and then my college that I'm an employee at, because I'm contracted out to a college in the Northwest. I'll call that just my. I told her I'll just call that my engineering or my regular job. So then my wife can keep track of what's going on with me. All right, let's talk about virtualization. Why virtualize? Virtualization is a time division multiplexing of using your processor in your system. So I show you guys this to show. This was my system under kind of heavy load, not really heavy load, but this was my system here. And for each second, let's say each one of these is a second, my system was only being used about, let's say under 20%, so let's say about 15% average. And what you'll see here, and you see it was 30% this last time, but in this moment where it was 30% used, does it make sense that it was 70% unused? Should. So down here it was 85% unused. There was all this space here of it not being used. So that's a problem. Because I was using my system when I took this picture. I had things going on my system. I could probably even play some Brotato, and there would be stuff going on over here. But when you look here, what is virtualization? Virtualization is the idea that we get more and more systems sharing that processor time. And the sharing happens through time division multiplexing. It is a time division of slots against that processor, right? And this is what it kind of looks like. I got a virtual machine. I've got a host over here, and that host has a bunch of guests in it. And even on this, even though all these guests are on over here, this is my Grafana monitoring, over here we can see that I'm not using much of the CPUs at all on this system. This system is very much still pretty much at rest. So we can add more and more density to our systems and kind of squeeze more and more processing power out of a system that is otherwise lost. Because it doesn't make sense that if we are using a system at 10% and we are losing 90% for that second, that processing time is lost forever. This 90% up here for all these hours and years and months that these systems have been running is gone forever. I can never get that time back. So we're trying to more efficiently use the time of virtualization. That's what it is. So how does it work? It's more and more density in our ability to process. And I'm going to show you how these work. But have you guys ever heard that college thing where the professor comes in and goes, "Is this full?" And you go, "Yeah." And then they pour some gravel in and they go, "Is this full?" And you go, "Yeah." And then they pour in sand and then they pour in some coffee, because there's always room for coffee with a friend, right? That kind of thing. This was from a funny website. So I give the source down here, right? That's fair use. But I think that this is an excellent way to look at this, right? So down here, this is how it works. In traditional architecture, I spin up my laptop in front of me. I put my Windows 10 on it. And then I have applications. One of the applications is this little Streamlabs desktop. One of them is PowerPoint over here. One of them is that little Windows Media Player playing the silly little song. All these things, right? By the way, that's from Heartbound. So if any of you guys like video games, Heartbound's a pretty fun little one. In virtualization architecture, I can take this same host OS and put a hypervisor on it. My hypervisor of choice on here is Oracle VirtualBox. I do not run Oracle VirtualBox though normally. Most everything I run is on the virtual hardware I have behind me, right? I have physical devices that run everything, right? But I could spin up a virtual machine, and I would have a virtual machine of like an Ubuntu or a Windows or an Ubuntu server as guest OSs inside of my host machine. Host machine, guests, right? So what happens is there's two types of hypervisors. There's reasons for both of them. Don't let anybody tell you the only one we run in the enterprise is Hypervisor 1, because that's true, but it's also false. So let me explain. It's not this. It's true that in the enterprise for production workloads, we use Hypervisor Type 1. That's what I have behind me. Hypervisor Type 1s come up. They've got a very small footprint. The hypervisor operating system spins up guests, and it runs very efficiently. This is the way then that we can pick up and move these around in the environment, and this is a pretty good way to do things. This is how ESXi works right here. ESXi, if you've ever heard of that, or VMware in their industry and enterprise level stuff. That's a hypervisor type 1. Very lean, very small footprint, can't even SSH into it. But then you might say, well, Scott, hold on, this is the one you showed me earlier in that last slide. This is type 2 hypervisor, and that's where you run a hypervisor inside of your operating system, and then you do things up there. And then somebody will come along and go, that's not how you do it in the industry. You're right. For productionalized workloads, we use type 1. But for development, for my dev guys, my developers that want to spin up hypervisors and spin up a machine and run it and then give it to their buddy and make it work on their buddy's machine, this is highly efficient, highly useful. But, and then by the way, once these are working, then we can just go move them right over into the hypervisor type 1, and now it's all productionalized. But there's a problem here. There's a lot of bloat here, and there's a lot of like overusage of systems here. So what we ended up doing, and by the way, this is how they start up. We don't need to go into that too much. Hypervisor 1, the physical machine turns into an operating system, boots up the hypervisor, and it starts adding the guests. But in a type 2 hypervisor, my machine boots up and does everything, and when I'm ready, I start the hypervisor and run whatever I want, right? But here's the way that containers work. Containers don't have all the virtual machine bloat. Every virtual machine that stands up that's Linux has a boot, has its own kernel, has home directory, has a temp directory, has a user lib 64 directory where you've got a bunch of 64-bit libraries that do everything, and your virtual machines can be different between them depending on how you deploy them and that kind of stuff. But a container is only the libraries that you need for that container to run, and everything else, all the kernel and shared libraries, come from the container runtime talking to the operating system. So they don't have any extra bloat that they don't need. So with a virtual machine, we used to have problems. We'd go to take it and move it and put it somewhere else, and it wouldn't run because there would be all kinds of differences. But with a container, you guys have heard that like containers are really easy to move and deploy somewhere else. Containers just tend to work as long as you don't go between like Windows and a Linux environment. They just tend to mount everything and go. That's actually one of the reasons that we got into Kubernetes so much, is because Kubernetes picks up these containers and moves them around for us. So we just deal with things as pods, and it does all the underlying container stuff for us, right? All right. So real quick, this is inside of an XCP-ng Center, which is a free and open source tool that you can use. It's a fork of Zen. And it shows some of my virtual machines out there with a bunch of guests on them. So here's my hosts that sit behind me in a rack. And then all my guests are sitting there. And those guests have to connect out. They have to have a virtual NIC, a VNIC. And that virtual NIC on them has to be connected to a network that is a virtual switch inside of that machine. So it's almost like I go and take a physical cord and plug it into each of them. But there's no physical plugs anymore. There's no physical cords. We have to set it up in here. And that's how we set it up in here. We can, and there's different tools and different ways we do it, but just know that we call them VNICs and vSwitches typically, right? And it's how we provide networking from our hosts to our guests. That's exactly how we do it. We build networks, then we give VNICs or network interface cards on each of these virtual devices, and then we connect them and we log in, and then we see if we can see them. So I'm on one of my systems here, and I do an IP adder, and I see that I can see my Ethernet, right? And I can ping. And I would be showing you guys the actual XCP-ng, except it's on my other network. I'm still jumped onto my other network because Cox is still down hard in my area, I guess, even though it's been down hard for like a week. Virtual machine concepts. There's no longer a physical box, so we have to give it virtual CPU allocations, and that's a logical thread of processing power allocated to our VM, or allotted. And then virtual RAM, we got to give it RAM because there's no physical RAM for it anymore, and that's a logical allocation of RAM to a VM. Both of these can be either configured cold or hot. Cold means that you can only configure it while the system is down. Hot means we can do it on the fly, right? And then it can be changed based on the running of the machine. Sometimes to add functionality, you have to update a VM or whatever. depending on the systems and that kind of stuff, and that's all going to depend on your vendor. Full disclosure, my XCPNG, which again I can't get into right now because they're on the other network, they do not have the capability to do hot because it's just an open source tool. So I have to turn my boxes off, add CPU and add RAM to them, and then turn them on. However, the disks are hot configurable. I can add disks to the system whenever I want. So disks can be added in most systems, but CPU and RAM are not always available to do that. All right, CPU virtualization, right? We have different type of hardware-assisted virtualization built into chips. Most chips past 2012 have this. So, you know, we're 11 years later. You probably don't have any hardware running anywhere that you're ever going to touch now that doesn't have hardware assisted virtualization on it. In Intel, that's VT, and in AMD, it's AMD-V. So you'll see those in the system. CapProc CPU info, and down here I should see, because this is Intel, I know this is an Intel, and I should be able to see if VT, or there may be other designators for it internally, but I should be able to see if VT is in here. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. Anyways, the point is you should normally see it. Hey, Hanso, hi. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We are just going through, talking through different stuff. I've got some questions up there that are just going to keep running for people that want to, you know, pop through the simple stuff. I asked earlier down in the Discord, and people said that they wanted to do more simple stuff. So I've got just simple questions up there, and you can challenge yourself and do those if you want, or you can just follow along. I'm talking about virtualization in the system. All right. Also, these are going up on YouTube as well now, and YouTube is, you can go to commands and see all of our commands, but YouTube's on there. Currently going through Code Cloud, quite practical for me for zero experience with DevOps. Han So High, I think that Code Cloud is like the standard for getting ready for your CKA and your CKAD. If you have their CKA from Mumshad Manabeth, that's like the best thing around. The second best thing to that is this right here. By the way, still run by some of the same guys. Where's it at? The second best thing I think to that is this right here, is Killer Coda. Killer Coda, free. You can go in and just practice. I don't get anything from these guys, right? We can just drop right here, and you can go right into a Kubernetes environment and do whatever you want. Just go in here, do Kubernetes, play around with it, and you got a full environment. Right? See everything. Boom. Yeah, interwebs, thanks for coming by. I always appreciate you guys coming by and talking. Keeps me motivated. Keeps me working on stuff. If you're not in Discord, jump down there. And if you are, you know, keep hanging out down there. That's what we do. It's weird. Like, again, Discord's always free. Never going to charge anything for that. But Discord, like, keeps track of how often people talk in it. So I tell you guys, like, just, you know, feel free to talk down there, talk shop, hop down in the voice channels, you know, when we do our voice talks and stuff, because they keep track of all that stuff, and I guess it looks good for a server. I don't really ever intend to do anything with it. I just kind of want the server to be, you know, a healthy place that looks good for their algorithms for, like, showing it to people and stuff. So you guys are always welcome down there. No pressure. Not everyone wants to do Discord, right? I get it. You can just hang out here. But there, you know, it's there. It's another, I think it's really persistent. VUSB storage, yeah. Cloud, I never have hooked anything up with a VUSB, but yeah, there is a USB pass-through that you can do. Yeah, technically you can do that. I've never used VUSB though, I'll tell you that. I've never messed with that. Overcommitment is the idea that because we're sharing a resource, but we're using time division on it, I may only have 32 CPUs, but I may be able to allocate of those 32 CPUs, 96 CPUs to my virtual machines. Because I'm over allocating, but I know they're all not going to use but 5% of the CPU, so I can keep my system over allocated and still not overuse my system. And express as an overcommitment ratio, so like 3-to-1, would be, say that we're doing 3 logical systems for each one actual CPU that we have, right? And then that's our review, and that's stuff about me. And then I say down here, like, ask questions or join Discord. It's one of my favorite little things. So, all right. What other things do we have? We have all kinds of things, man. I have all kinds of old talks for us to talk about. But mainly, I want you guys to be in here, like, working on this stuff. Robodom's linking a bunch of stuff that you guys can play with if you want. You guys are always welcome to, again, hang out down there. Let's do another one that we haven't done in a while. Let's look at this one. This one will be fun. This one will be self-assessment, and the self-assessment matrix goes around the concept of something we were talking about earlier. Some of you were saying you wanted to get the job, right? Some people here said, "Hey, I'm interested in getting a job in this space," right? I mean, I don't need you all to raise your hands or anything, but if you're thinking of getting into Linux or any field, this is a way to do it. And I think I put this up. This should be up in the Discord. Let me pop up the Discord if anybody missed this. By the way, I always try to show you guys top left. You can go to events. We have a bunch of events up there. Ben's going to come talk about data analytics, and then we've got a Christmas party, our first official Christmas party, right? But what was I going to show you guys? Hold on, let's see if it's down here. I think I put it under presentations. Presentations, and well, there's a networking primer one, and there's the 3-tier application. If I didn't do this one yet, let me make sure it's down there. A way. Maybe that's a way. Maybe you want to do self-assessment. Maybe this is something you've never done before. And I can tell you that as a person who assesses people, right? I'm a college professor. I have to assess people and give them grades on how well their work adheres to a rubric, right? Typically. And I love that. Like, I love being an engineer and just checking boxes. They did or they didn't do these things. It's easy for me. But most people have never done that for themselves. What if I told you that, like, the first step to changing anything about what you want, like you tell me right now, Scott, I want to change my career. Good. The first step is to want to change your career. The second step is to start to figure out the gap analysis between where you're at and where you want to go. So the first step is knowing you want it, right? And then we need to do an assessment. So this is a way to do that. This is not the only way. This is a way. I'm going to tell you guys with a lot of things. I'm going to show you a way to maybe do it. Here's a self-assessment. Here's our methodology for that self-assessment right here. The methodology is, there's a purpose, a scope, an out of scope. There's the methodology that we follow, and then the control. So this is our, I should call this the name is purpose, scope. I need to change the thing, because while this whole thing is the methodology, this could be could more accurately be called the approach, maybe. Purpose, self-assessment to determine skills and skill gaps. I want to know what I do and don't know well, and then I want to know what my interests are so I could figure out where to best put that fix, right? Because, like, there's a lot of places that I have skill gaps. There's a lot of places you probably have skill gaps. So how do we find where to best put our time to do this? All right. Here's the scope. In scope will be questions about technical and technical interests, so skills and interests, and then business skills and business interests. Again, you can expand this once you have it. You do whatever you want. Out of scope, and I originally wrote this for a project at work, or I wrote this to then bring into work. I wrote it outside and then I brought it in. But the team needs an external assessment, and so the team needs are not gonna. We're not gonna care about what the team needs. This is what we need. This is a self-assessment. An external assessment, so people outside of us are not going to be assessing us for this. You should get assessed by other people elsewhere in your career. Hopefully, if you got a good feedback system from management, you have that kind of stuff, but that will be out of scope for this. Then you're going to apply some objectivity to determine skills and interests. We're going to ask all the same questions to the assessed individuals and normalize our answers to 50 or 100 points based on if we have 5 or 10 questions, respectively. So 50 for the 5, 100 for the 10. That makes sense, right? Answers will be excellent, 8 to 10, adequate, 4 to 7, and poor, 0 to 3. So you can figure out how well you think you have each of these things. This will then allow for quantitative assessment, right? Quantitative means by the numbers. And then we can go and we can look at whatever we want. The control for this is all questions will be asked the same to all individuals. So this was eventually going to be aggregated up to my boss, and then she could go look at all of the different pieces, and we give them 5 days to complete the self-assessment. Boom. All right. So our methodology might look something like this. Hopefully you guys can read that. Linux, storage, security, networking, SVN or Git, automation, monitoring, cloud, database, and Kubernetes. You could change the path. You can change these if you wanted to. But then I want you to assess yourself. Where do you think you are? If you go across the board and say low, you might be a little hard on yourself. But if you really don't have any of these skills, that's fine to know. At least you know that you're low in all the areas. I don't care what your total score is. I'm not trying to hire you. You're not even trying to hire yourself. You're trying to prove to yourself what you do or don't know, right? Okay. Once you have your self-assessment of what you are or aren't good at, then we need to figure out what's our interest. So what's our interest in Linux? If you said your interest skill was low and you don't give a shit about Linux, good. But if your security is low, because you know you don't know a lot of stuff about security, then your security interest is high, that's where you need to go start studying. Like, I'm not trying to tell you guys like how to live your life. I'm just telling you, like, if you make the assessment that you want to go someplace, this is a good way to figure out how to get to that place. You can change anything over here you want in that document. Robodom, this was based on high performance compute. This was for my team, so I wrote these out for my team. These are the things I would want to know from actually my team, and I would tell my manager that I think she should know. And you might say, cloud? Do you guys really use cloud or Kubernetes? No, but there's a lot of cloud and Kubernetes stuff coming down the pike. That's P-I-K-E, by the way. It's one of my annoyances. That is the expression. It is not pipe. I had a manager that used to always say that. Coming down the pipe, I'm like, it's not the expression. All right. Maybe he was talking about, because it is pipeline, but it is coming down the pike. All right. Now we have our assessment of what our skill is and what our interests are. And then now is our skill and our interest in maybe some management stuff. How's our time management? Maybe I don't think my time management is good and I need to get some tooling around that. I need to understand it a little bit. Yeah, Robodom, he was trying to be hip. Public speaking. Maybe I think my public speaking is low, but I have a really high interest in it. Some people, I would say the average engineer, they have a low public speaking and they have a low interest in doing public speaking. In fact, their low interest may be zero. They do not want to do public speaking. For me, managing others is probably medium. I'm probably okay at managing others. I've been doing it with college students for a long time. But my interest in managing people is no. I would do a 0 right here. Same thing with budget financials. I'm okay with a budget. I can balance a budget sheet. I can look at stuff and I can figure out numbers pretty quick. But do I want to do that? No, I'm not interested in that. And then vendor interactions. I'm pretty good with my vendors. I've always had pretty good vendor interactions, especially with their engineering teams. Maybe I put myself medium there. But what's my interest in interacting with vendors? 0. I don't want to interact with anybody as an engineer. I just want to do my shit and hand it over. That's all I ever want to do. That's why if you guys have noticed in my Discord, I'm a Mr. Meeseeks, because I just want to accomplish my purpose for living and then disappear. There's a reason I picked Mr. Meeseeks. Also, isn't Rick and Morty like 10 years old now? I can't believe how old Rick and Morty is now. Me and some of my buddies have been watching that for 10 years. And I'm not saying that to like try to be like, oh, I'm so cool, I've been watching Rick and Morty. Maybe it's 2014 it came out. Been out a long ass time though. I don't think as far as 2015. I think 2014 is when it came out. Anyways, and then that's the whole self-assessment matrix. So that's a way to do things to figure out. And again, you never have to show anybody. If you download that and put that together, you never have to show that to anybody. Who cares? That's for you. That's for you to understand maybe what your goals are. And then maybe you take that Linux and you go, oh, I'm not really worried about Linux. I want C programming there. Don't allow me, some streamer online who just been doing Linux for a long time, to tell you how to live your life. Do whatever works for you, right? Oh, the pit of the shell I'm in. Echo. $$. That was something that came up earlier. Oh, only $2. That's the shell that I'm in. Is that one right there? 6257. All right. Rodom, what are you objecting to? And you guys know that I'm the only one. Did you guys know that I'm the only one that can override in the channel? I always consider all those topics to be basically part of the same root. Can't really have one without the other. Yeah, Neto, that's fair. And you may find that you study best just kind of going through, like, you know, doing it. Some people study best doing it. You know, what we call kinesiology, right? Like doing stuff, and it's you're kinesthetic learner. You do it by like touching it and seeing it happen. That's how I learn. I'm not gonna go as far as to say that I've never forgot something that I've typed, but I'm gonna tell you that, like, if I've typed it and done it, I probably can do it again, and that's a good skill. Like, I have a pretty decent like memory as an engineer, and that's pretty good. I'm not smarter than any other engineers I've met. I know guys that can. I actually know two guys. I've met two humans that can do calculus in their head. Calculus in their head. Yes. With the outputs. Yes. With whatever X value you give them. Yes. Yes. You think? Yeah. I know two of them. They are brilliant. I can't do that. I will never do calculus in my head. You'll be lucky to get me to do calculus out of a computer. But I know guys that can do that. Right? Yeah, Rodom. Well, I'm not going to tell anybody how to live. I'm going to tell you guys, though, that you can do this, and this is definitely something that you can get better at. Let me ask something. Can I ask something, though? This will be for me, because I've been trying to make the stream better, and let me manage a little poll here, and I'm going to do a new poll, and it's say, do you like the questions in the top right? Yes, no, give me all to There you go. There's my poll. You guys can say whether or not you like those, and I'll keep building those, because I have some of those to build around. Probably like some. We'll probably do some that are around like probably some of those pen testing topics, and if you guys want to go hit stuff. So I'll let you guys vote how you like those. Do you like them? Do you not like them? Are they in the way? Are they not in the way? Hey, it's very valid for people to say I don't like those. Like, they're just going up there. I also only have enough right now for just over an hour, so that's also a reason not to like them. But if I do a whole bunch of those, and maybe, by the way, I could make those longer, and I could have those be around different topics of, like, hey, go execute against this API, and can you do this, and can you do that? And they'll just basically be like little topical things that are going while I'm doing whatever else we're doing. And if anybody says, you know, hey, stop and look at them, we can do it. Robodom, the reason I haven't been hitting those real hard, Robodom, is because we talked about them like the last 2 times I've been streaming. So like almost all of those have been done, but maybe I will have like so Sunday mornings are all labs, but maybe I'll start making maybe we'll do them all week, and then on Mondays I'll give answers or something. How's that? So maybe Monday would be like an answer stream. But let's see what people vote for. What do you guys think? Yes, no. It looks like people are saying yes, they like them, so that's kind of good. I think that it's good too. Like, if I'm focusing on other things, you guys can still be thinking about the basics. And people really, earlier today, somebody put up a poll like, do you want to see more basics or more advanced stuff? And people seem to want basics. Salty, I don't have any labs that are broken, but I do have a lab that's that says I have a lab that says it's not production ready yet, and that's this one. So if we go down in our labs, so Killer Coda, Creator, this is our labs, and then I have one in Ansible that's not really doing anything, and it's at the end. It's called the Enterprise Playground. There's nothing broken with this, right? And then, hold on, down here, in the Linux one, there's a lab that, it's down here at the bottom, called Data Visualization with Grafana, and it just says at the beginning, this one says, Hyprox, you don't like them? You don't like the little things at the top? I thought they were pretty out of the way, but maybe it's not good. This one says this lab is under construction and not cleared for use yet. So I don't know when that happened either, Hyproxy. Hopefully it was a while ago. I don't know. But you guys don't have to out yourselves on if you don't like them or not. But feel free to vote if you do like those or not. And I put them over me if you don't want to see me. I'd do it over that. Salty, did we have, let's see, did I have like a points redemption for, oh man, hopefully I didn't. I shouldn't miss my point redemption. Oh no. Oh damn. Now I do, okay, fair enough. I gotta fix a lab item, but I always get to pick the lab item. So can I just fix, let me make sure. Typically I get to pick the one I'm gonna fix. But let me fix the one that I was building the other day, if that's fair. Because the one I'm building the other day, I didn't release yet, and I can release it by actually pushing it up, and we can run through it if that's fine. All right, let me finish that one real quick then. I'm gonna back out of this, and I will go to here. I'll pull this up. So here's the lab. Push this over. Whoops. Push this down. And I'm going to pull up the lab info, which I think was this one. Yep. Okay, so this will be a little messy, but I got all the logic and everything done, and I'll just talk you guys through it, and then we'll do the labs if that's okay. Hold on. Yes, no, okay. Well, it looks like yeses are winning, but you guys can use channel points to alter that vote. So, Robodom, make sure you have enough in there if you like yeses, because somebody could come in and drop a bomb on you guys and say no, and then you guys know that I'll go with what I see, right? I always do. All right. So over here, what we were doing is we were gathering information into variables. Let's look at our index.json because this should be good. Gathering variables, decision structures, and then logical truth with and or. Those were our things. That's called fixing the poll. Hey Robodom, if you got the points. Oh look, people are putting no. There's a lot more no's coming. So this may be the most points we've ever seen put into a poll before. Let me go look. I can look at I think I can view the results in real time. Yes, no. Give me all the Linux will also count as a yes, I think. But we'll see how this goes. You guys have a little more time. You guys are allowed to spend channel points however you want in there. All right, you could buy the vote if you want. Logical truth with and or. Okay, so we did all of these things. So now I just got to add them into the labs. All right, fair enough, Robodom. All right, so we came down here. We built all these. Let's see if this is all right. We said here that check your environmental variables. And, oh, here was the one that I had forgotten the other day, declare-p and set. So here's a bunch of ways to see. You can do a print env, you can do an env, you can do a declare-p, and you can do a set. So there's a lot of ways to see your environmental variables. We'll agree that the box itself is maybe taking up too much real estate. The questions themselves are very useful. Do you want it? Hold on. Would it be better if I did this? Hold on. Let me, while it's going, let me be an eye doctor real quick and say, but I feel like, hold on. I feel like this is small already. Would this be better? Would that be too much? It should be on the ticker on the bottom. I could do them on the ticker on the bottom. Do you think that would be... But people wouldn't be able to read them, and they would probably go... I mean, I'd have to slow the ticker down. You can still see it like that? Is that okay for you guys? Look, guys, I have no problem... Oh, look, and we got to the end. So we went to the end twice in 3 hours and 19 minutes. So it does take a while to go through all those, but I would make a bunch more. Like right now, these are all Linux ones. I would have security ones and API ones and Ansible ones and look at all. I mean, I'm going back up through them all, so it's gonna be the same start again. And like the size of the text in the original, blue circle on the bottom isn't neat. You don't think that should be there? That's kind of like a timer for how long you got. You don't like that? If I take that out, I can make them way bigger. So if I put them there, but I made the text the whole size, you guys would be okay with that? That wouldn't be too in the way for anybody. What do we got here? Edipore, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Thank you for the follow. You guys know follows are free, so you're welcome to do them all you want. Let me make it smaller like that, and I'll play with it a little bit. In our lab Sunday, I'll leave it up there, and I'll do another vote. Is that fair? Because let's say that there was some formatting issues, and don't worry, you guys don't have to spend all your channel points on them. But yeah, we'll say that we'll make it a little smaller. We'll make the words a little bigger, and I'll try the formatting out a little bit to make it kind of good. And that's actually funny. Nobody's at my house right now, and I just saw out of the corner of my eye my hand moving behind the door like that, and I was like, is somebody else in my house right now? Because anyways, got scared for a second. It's like when you guys tell me, oh, hey, tell your little sister to stop standing back there. She's being creepy. And I'm like, what the hell? Right? I love it. All right. I'm back. All right, so you've been streaming for too long. Yeah, Rogue, no, I've definitely been streaming for too long. But I did say I'd fix this, so let's go through this. We've got all these words here. And then is there a difference between the above two commands? How can you find out? Boom, boom. Can you do the output of a variable name? Did that give any output? So we did all these. And then I said check the variable again. This is all extra stuff. This was all ping the default gateway 3 times and verify you get a response. This is from the other lab that we stole this from, so I'm going to get rid of that. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to have to populate this with some more information. So we got some output. Let's go look at our index again real quick. Hold on. Decision structures come next. So we're still just gathering data in this one. So can we give any output? And then we do a uname into a name. And that will pop out with some information. And then maybe we echo name again. So we'll test that out. Boom. So we're fixing the lab. We're making the lab into a working lab. So we checked the environment. We did that stuff. We can do an nproc. Can you capture the number of processors? Yeah, that's all fine. And then let's say, can you capture whether or not processes are running test for HTTP and SSHD. And then down here, we'll have the system check for something like this. Alright, hold on a second here. Copy this, drop it down here. Take this, grab it, drop it here. And then HTTPD check is equal to echo $, $question mark, right? Because that's how you would get that. Oh yeah, Rogue Down, I think I'm reading your old message again, but yeah, I've definitely been streaming too long now. So let's see, the wife said she's coming home. Oh, she's gonna bring some foods home. Hold on a second. Okay, drinks. 3. I'm asking her to grab me 3 of those little cheese quesadillas from Pollo Loco. Those are pretty good. All right. So we're making this. So we grabbed that, and what do you see when? So is, and then. So okay. So that's one, and then the next one is basically the same thing but with SSH. So. SSHD, and then the check for that is going to be the SSHD check. And then, can you verify that they're correct? Which one is on and which one is not running? Or which one is running? Make sure we keep our vernacular right. Which one is running? and which one is not running, right? And just to answer that, you could just do your ps-efs to see whether or not there's any output, right? I'm just going to say HTTPD is not running, and SSHD, whoops, is running. Let's put that in there as a little answer as an aside for everybody. All right, so we can save that. That part of the lab's done. And then we go over to step 2. And step 2 needs to be all ripped up. This is why I stopped doing it the other day, because this was a little, I don't want to say boring, but it's just a little bit, probably more than everybody wants to watch, but we'll do it. Step 2, or lab 2 is going to be to decision structures. So test the decision structures of bash. There are 3 types of decision structures. They are, you've got single alternative, dual, I know I don't have to type them out, but this will be my penance, and multiple. And for those of you that were around the other day when we were doing them, single alternative is as a program walks along from top bottom in what we call a procedural fashion. If it doesn't find anything to do, it just goes on. Like if the condition tests that there's nothing true, it just moves along. A dual alternative, so a single alternative does not have to execute any block of code. A dual alternative forces a block of code to run. You must do this, else this, right? Yeah, hand so high, thanks for coming by. If you stop back by, you're welcome. We are simply doing Linux, and you guys are welcome to hang out down in the Discord if you want. All right, so let's go down here and let's say test each of these structures. Test each of these structures with the logic you have, or with the variables you have from the previous step. All right, so we're gonna do that, and then down here, this first one will be right, so use a single alternative structure to determine whether or not one of these is running. And the check that we used for the HTTPD check was like this. So this check is going to come out as a 1. We know it's going to come out from a 1 because grep is going to exit without a good return code. Grep exits with a 0 return code if it finds the process running. So the HTTPD check is going to be 1. So if HTTPD check equals 1, then HTTPD is not running, right? And we did this to mess with it, and I did that to show the change in the logic. So actually, I'm going to set that to 0, and I'm going to say HTTPD, it's going to be 1, and then say HTTPD is not running. So that's good. We'll do the next one for SSH. So SSH is going to be here, and it's going to be this one right here. If check SSH is running, and then, oh, you know what? Actually, I need to do this here first. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to take the else off, and I'll do it just like that. So it's basically the same thing, right? Are these output like you expect? Can you make them work incorrectly? Can you make them logically incorrect but still work according to their syntax? And the answer to that is all you got to do is change it to a 0 or 1, right? By the way, I didn't even go into this, but this is a very useful thing, even though, like, we're doing systems work and we're doing platform engineering type work, but you still need to know the 3 ways that errors can occur for computer science. And you say, well, but this isn't a computer science thing, really. This is a system thing. Yeah, but the system runs on computer science, right? So even if we're not strictly speaking down coding, there's still 3 types of errors that can happen. Does anybody know the 3 types of errors that you're going to run into as a systems person, even if you're running things down in Bash? I'll tell you here in a second. Use the dual alternative structure to force the system to output something even if the condition is not met, right? Because in dual alternative, it's only gonna do something if it needs to. It's like you're walking home and you say to yourself, if I see a stick, I'll pick it up. But if you don't see a stick, then it won't be there. PEBKAC is one of the potential. So if you guys aren't familiar, PEBKAC is problem exists between keyboard and chair. But there's also another fun one. Does anybody know Picnic? I like Picnic as well. So let's run this as a dual alternative structure. And the dual alternative structure is going to look like this. It's going to force something to happen. And I'm going to do this one first. And we'll do this one. And then we're going to copy that. And then we're going to do this one. Boom. That's why I do stuff before I come in and do it. Because then it's just a bunch of copy and paste and I don't have to rewrite everything. ID10T is pretty funny too. Picnic is problem in chair, not in computer. I always like that one. Picnic. Picnic is a problem in chair, not in. and PEBKAC, people know PEBKAC, but I only heard Picnic about a year ago. And I'm like, I've been doing this a long time to have missed Picnic. That's a funny one. So they're all funny, but people are aware of Picnic or PEBKAC. I haven't heard I haven't heard Beefstick, but that's pretty funny. All right. Multiple. Use a multiple alternative to output multiple possibilities greater than 2, right? That's what it is. Layer 8. Oh, layer 8's pretty good. I like that. I think I've heard that one, but that's pretty good. This one is going to be, we set, maybe we set our SSHD check, but then we check for whatever we expect. So in this case, we're going to check, use multiple alternative to output. And in this one, say case that in, case SSD check in that. In 0, it's going to be running. And in 1, it's not going to be running. And then echo something is really wrong, right? And then you could change through them if you wanted to. And then you could check the different ones. And I'm going to say, can you do the same thing for the HTTPD check? How do you have to edit it? Can you set the variable of SSHD check to verify that the works as you expect? Right? So can you make those things? Layer 8's great. That's a pretty funny one. I like that. So I'm just going to throw some more of these away, and then and then that was all we need. Now we're going to do now we're going to go to the end and say you have done some conditional logic based on in Bash. Let's go forward and do some inclusive and do some more test logic in the next section. All right, good. So now that one's done. So we Control S it, save it, Close this other stuff out because we don't need it anymore. And now we go to step 3. So we're almost done. Oh, by the way, we have to verify these. So the verification for the first one will be that I'm just going to say true because I'm okay with been true is kind of like a little cheat. True. It's a little cheat to make sure that it works for you. And then this next one, we're just going to say that, and you might say, well, why don't you just use one of these variables? Well, I can't use the variables because it's going to spawn a different shell to do the check. So I'm going to do the same one as been true. Oh, I hear the wife coming home. I gotta drop here soon, guys, because she got done with her her thing and texted me that she was coming home. So all right, those are done. All right, guys, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find somebody to raid. I'm going to go to our little end of stream thing, and I'm going to say I appreciate everybody coming by. Keep doing this. Robodom, will you give the Discord for anybody that wants it? You guys are welcome to come hang out down there, talk shop, work on stuff, study, do this kind of stuff, because I think you guys are very capable of doing this. Let's go find somebody to raid real quick. We're not far from 3,000 followers either, so that's kind of cool. Kind of exciting. Let's go find somebody to raid. Who's going on here? Let's go hit up L:Q. A lot of you guys like hanging out with him, I think. So we'll go raid over there, and I'll tell you guys to keep at it, and I will probably catch you guys on the next one here. Give me 1 second here. Drop in here. Twitch, and we'll raid away. See you guys.
93, over 800,000 records.
Like a small business. Imagine you're a pizza shop. Let's say that, right? And these days, holy cannoli, Thomas, _Thomas, the Linux user on the web situation themselves. How is it going? Doing all the Linux? Hell yeah. Let me shout out _Thomas. How are you doing, my friend? How are you doing? We're currently trying to, we're trying to debug some inscrutable